just going to kick off by saying welcome and thank you very much for attending in person and attending online. So today we have a presentation or an event hosted by the education focused UNSW Student Wellbeing Community of Practice. And our event is Wellbeing at UNSW Connection for Support. So this event is all around connecting us together. I think during COVID, we lost a lot of that connection. So it's about trying to bring us all together and do a little bit of what we do in our community of practice by sharing practice around student wellbeing. So I'd like to start today with an acknowledgement of country. So today we stand on unceded Badjigal and Gadigal land. I would like to acknowledge the Badjigal and Gadigal people who are the traditional custodians of this land and show my respect to elders past and present. And extend that respect to all Torres Strait Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples with us today. So it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. The First Nations people's concept of good health is more than the absence of diseases and illness. It is a holistic concept that includes physical, social, emotional, cultural and spiritual well-being for both individuals and the community. It is a beautiful way of looking at well-being and gives us a starting point for our discussions with students, with the student panelists that we have today, and also with all of our other colleagues who will be sharing their practice around student wellbeing. So first, we're going to have a welcome from myself and Chris. So I should introduce myself. So my name is Jess Maser. My day job is a lecturer in the School of Clinical Medicine. So I teach from and at the on Biripi land at the Rural Clinical Campus in Port Macquarie. But I am in Sydney today. And I'm also the academic co-lead of the Student Wellbeing Community of Practice along with Chris. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Chris Money. I'm a senior lecturer at the School of Health Sciences, and I'm co-lead with Jess.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. All right, so I'll let Chris introduce and give you a bit of a background on what we do in the Student Wellbeing Community of Practice.
Thanks, Jess. So the education-focused student wellbeing, we want to explore creative ways to monitor and enhance student wellbeing at all different stages of learning in various teaching environments. We're a very inclusive community of practice, even though we're under the education-focused remit of the Pro-Vice Chancellor office. We actually want people from all across the universities, all flavour of educators, students, and also colleagues from also other universities. So you can see from that we have 115 registered members from all 7 faculties. We've got about 53% from non-EF, non-education focused parts of the university. So from the DVC, the PVC-ESC, from faculties, ARC, and of course our lovely students, who we have a number of students on our community of practice, and they actually do come and help us give their voice. We also have 5 other universities staff also connected to our community of practice, which we're really happy with. We share our practice monthly via meetings, via MST teams, and just like this meeting, it's very relaxed, very casual. It's come if you can. It's not, if you're not coming, you're not a member. It's join us and give as much voice and as much connection as you can, given your time frame. So that's what we're really about. We collaborate to identify, as I said, student wellbeing resources and share our practice and share these resources. And we value, very much value the student voice, hence why we've got a panel today being led by Maddie. My head up, Jess.
Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the event today. So our first session is our keynote, where we've invited a panel of students, and this is facilitated by Madhav from UNSW Health Promotion. And this is themed around student wellbeing as a core deliverable and discussing what the enablers of student wellbeing are, because I think that's a very important conversation. Our second two sessions, so session 2 and 3, are going to have breaks in between, will be around practice sharing. So this is the bulk of what we do at the community of practice. We want you to discover how colleagues and students incorporate and support student wellbeing in their practice. And then after our session, we have got an expo downstairs as well as lunch. So what we've tried to do is to connect with as many student support services across UNSW to get them together and allow you the opportunity to connect with them, understand what they do and how they might be able to support you in any way, particularly if you're a student-facing person where you have some involvement with students, understanding what these services do and who they are, connecting a face to a service. And being able to ask any questions that you have, that's what we envisage for that. So that will be downstairs in the roundhouse. And I've got a QR code here, and you can scan that if you want the detailed program, but it's also on the EduFest website. So why are we here today? This session is generally about connection and community, trying to connect us all together to make those connections with each other that maybe we've lost. There's a little bit of, hybrid things happening. So sorry for everybody online, you won't be able to connect with the expo, but we do have information from each of these services that we've collected about what they do and who to contact and how to get in contact with them. So I'd encourage you to connect with those services and find out who they are and what they do and how to ask them the questions that you have for how you can support your students. So a big part of today is about sharing our practice. So finding out how wellbeing is a part of what we do and who we are. It's about connecting, validating and supporting everybody's efforts in fostering student wellbeing and creating a community across UNSW. So the picture that we've got there is from the last EF retreat, so the education focused retreat that we had this year. And it is such a lovely community. And what we would like to do is try to create a community similar to that across UNSW, particularly in supporting student wellbeing. So today, if you take anything away from what we're doing here in this session, let it be that we care about you and what you do, and you have a supportive community here in the community of practice, but also across the university. I have this QR code set out throughout all of the sessions. So for anybody who is presenting today, the presentations times are very tight, and there's a Padlet for questions. So each presentation has a title. So have a look out for that title and post your questions in there. So the QR code's on here. So with that, I would like to introduce Madhav Raman from UNSW Health Promotion, who will be facilitating our student panel on enablers of student wellbeing at university. Do you want to pass the mic?
Yep, microphone.
We're all the things.
Morning, everyone. I am Madhav Raman. I will be moderating today's panel, as Kristen just mentioned. My background is I'm a former international student alumnus of UNSW School of Population Health, and I am the engagement officer with the Health Promotions Unit. So I come in with a lot of health area expertise, and I work with a lot of students on a day-to-day basis. And the work that we do is mostly targeted towards improving student health and well-being. To give the audience a brief context as to how this panel came to fruition, we from the Health Promotion Unit submitted an abstract titled Student Wellbeing as a Core Deliverable, which is available on the EduFest program if you're interested in reading a summary. And we had initial discussions with the Student Wellbeing CoP around how best can we frame this and deliver this to a diverse range of audience comprised of academics, professional staff, and students, and we decided the best way was a student panel. So hopefully today's panel was created to offer a glimpse into health promotion approach of co-design and how students play an integral part within that process. And it also aims to do a deep dive into the enablers of student well-being at UNSW from different standpoints and discuss the challenges the students face. So at the end of the panel, I hope you all walk away with some insight into how educators can improve student well-being in our own little ways. Now, what we've all been waiting for, so I'll quickly do an introduction of the panelists. I'd like to thank them for taking time out. I know it's a busy time. We're going into exam period and assignment mode, so thank you for coming today. Firstly, we have Aaron Yuki. Aaron is the first in his family to study at university, and he's pursuing a degree in advanced science. He's also a passionate advocate of student well-being, accessibility and equity, diversity and inclusion through his interactions with different working groups, faculties and departments at UNSW. So welcome, Aaron. Next we have Eunice Chung, who's a fourth-year medical student and proud student ambassador on the UNSW Student Health Advisory Committee. She serves on different university committees and is a strong voice for her peers and their health and well-being program. Next is Haley. Haley Jiang is pursuing a Bachelor of Chemical Product Engineering and Bachelor of Arts. She has been an active UNSW Health and Wellbeing Ambassador member and contributes to our Health Promotions Unit's co-designed health campaigns and initiatives. She is now the 2023 Sexual Health and Alcohol and Drugs Officer Assistant within the HWA program, the Health and Wellbeing Ambassador program. So welcome. Last but not least, we have Rati Garu, who is a PhD candidate and psychologist who has extensive experience in mental health research and promotion. She's an international student who has had a massive impact on mental health in Sydney's Muslim student communities as an executive member of the Islamic Society of UNSW and Indonesian Muslim family students. She also serves on the UNSW Postgraduate Council as the Deputy Chairperson of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion for 2023. So thank you for joining us. Right. There are longer bios for each of the panelists and all the wonderful work that they've done, so please do have a look at it. I just wanted to give a very brief introduction to them. So to begin to understand the enablers of student well-being at UNSW, we can go back to the first slide. We need to consider some of the challenges students face. So some of these challenges relate to the personal and lived experiences of students living away from home, learning in a different culture and language, and financial and social pressures as well. But some of these challenges relate to the classroom environment as well. So firstly, I'd like to start with Aaron. I believe, as I mentioned in the bio, you're the first in the family to attend university. Could you please briefly share the challenges you overcame and how do you address those challenges daily to continue within university?
Thanks, Marv. I think being a Jewish student and coming from OSS, also being queer, neurodiverse, having multiple health conditions, I think the biggest challenge was the identity shift, actually feeling that I belong or like that I'm allowed. I don't know, just that I can become an academic. It's just such a huge transition for me. I think that the shift of just feeling that I can be accepted in this space was just not an easy experience. I've never really had stability in my life because of my upbringing, and I've been a chef for many years. But I think probably from a full-time role, like studying has not been easy either. And I think the stability aspect that I've found now, I guess through multiple services like I'm a part of the ally network in UNSW, and also was a health and wellbeing ambassador, and we've had like so much training from that. I think one of the biggest takeaways from that was like learning just the power of self-care, especially when you've gone through like a day of training from the mental health first aid. Like just reiterating it over and over. I just wasn't comfortable with myself because there's so much else going on and so many exams and just other things. I spread myself out quite thinly, but I think just having communities like that has really been probably for sure.
Thanks, Adam. You mentioned stability, and I think that's really important because as educators and academics in the room and online, I think we have to go beyond the fact that a student's more than just a ZID number who's enrolled in your course, but there are a lot of factors that do influence them, and there are different communities at UNSW. So one particular community is the postgraduate community, and I'll bring Rati into this question. As a member of the Postgraduate Council, what are some of the health and well-being challenges commonly expressed by that community?
Thank you for the question, Madam. So as part of the postgraduate students community, what I feel is like the postgraduate students usually like are coming from in much more like a major age compared to the one that is coming from the undergraduate students, right? So when they started their journey as like postgraduate students, they usually had already experience as being like the undergraduate student before. And then some of them already maybe have like a family, they already like get married, having children. And the other one is most of them also usually have some experience that have, like having experience like the job experience before. Like they already have like a quite a settled career before they choose to be postgraduate students. So in terms of like the expectation related to the study that they will like pursue, they really need something that not only giving students like the opportunity to like develop their skills, their life, but also some maybe like an understanding about like they have like a real commitment, like a family commitment, or maybe they have already like a job commitment as well. And some of the students who like come to the PGC itself, I got some emails that I received that told me that as like a research student, so because like postgraduate students also comprise of like a postdoc student and then research students. The one that usually come out to the PTC is coming from the research students when they need some application related to the how to build up the positive relationship with the supervisor, because the supervisor in the research lab maybe or in the research group sometimes do not give them a space to to have work-life balance, which is it makes them really stressed out as well. I even noticed that some of my friends also some of them complaining that the lab push them to work even up to 80 hours per week, because I think that's the nature of the competition in the academia setting. So I understand that maybe some of professors also push the students, but yeah, they don't feel fulfill anymore but what they are doing related to the research, for instance. When they started the journey as a PhD student, maybe some of them feel like this is the good way to build up their knowledge, their love about science, but when they started and then it has been going for several months, several years, and they don't fulfill about the academia setting. That's the one that is coming from international, not only international, but also some of the domestic students. But the other one for the postgraduate coursework, the one that I usually also observe, and some of them also talk to me. They feel the clear guidelines and expectation from the academics is really important, and also how to give them some kind of a support that the students can have an opportunity to to be feel safe and secure, because some of postgraduate students who talk to me, the one that is highlighted what makes them stressed is because sometimes the lecturers like maybe not only push but like the treat all the students in the class. Be careful with the assignments because most of the people who come from this class is actually like a not really good grades. So it puts some, like some pressure more to the students. And what I feel like that's also part of the academic pressure that all the postgraduate students should like face. Yeah.
A lot to unravel there, and I think Bradley's made some really important points around, academia can be competitive, and maintaining that balance is really imperative to excelling inside the classroom as well as outside as well. And within the PG community as well, there are different communities within that. So you have the PhD students or higher degree research students who do need that support, who do need to maintain relationships. And that is all influenced by their upbringing, their cultural background, etc. So very great points, Randy, as well. Now, Eunice and Haley and Aaron, you're all undergraduate students. What are some of the things that you're hearing in terms of challenges from an undergraduate perspective? Haley, would you like to focus?
Thanks, Myrtle, and thank you everyone for joining us today. It's very lovely to see people and people online as well. In terms of the undergraduate experience, I think if I could sum it up in 2 minutes, what a current issue is and what I've found with the conversations that I've had with different communities is the lack of being deliberate. I think that a lot of people, a lot of students, and I think that all of us in this room can be like, oh, I can take care of myself, I care about myself, I'll make these steps to better myself. But then with students, because they're so busy, when it comes to make those decisions or wake up a little bit earlier to go exercise or wake up a little bit earlier to be mindful, they just don't do it because unfortunately there are more pressing issues like exams, like social circles, like changing that and what's on Instagram, that kind of stuff, that it often is prioritized higher than taking care of ourselves. And I think, forgive me, as older people, I think we can have this perception of, oh, why don't they do this? It'll be better for you in 10 years' time, or your back's not going to hurt as much in 10 years' time. But I think the true undergraduate student experience is actually seeing and actually feeling that it doesn't feel that I don't think it's worth it, and I don't think that I'll do it today. So that's why I say it's really important to be deliberate. One of the things that we say, or that we pioneer, I guess, in health corrections is enabling students to regain control of their health through the advocacy of students themselves. But I think I want to flip that on the other side and say that people with influence and people with the resources also need to equally spearhead that conversation in dynamics and situations where we as students don't actually have the most influence. And so being deliberate is the way that we've tried, at least in health promotions, to enable students to take control of their health. So get people to actually talk about it. Get people to actually talk about, it might be a bit awkward, but talk about the conversation or practice the conversations they might have with themselves in the future. So being deliberate is really important, even if you don't really see the immediate outcomes. I think Eunice might have some to say.
Thanks, Haley, and I completely echo your thoughts, and I've definitely fallen into that trap myself because there's just so many competing priorities. But I think adding on to that, once students do get to the point where they realise, okay, I might need a little bit of support, I want to firstly acknowledge UNSW does so much for students, and there are so many resources and services out there. But one thing that I really noticed from my own experience and also chatting to different students is that it's a lot of information to process, and it's difficult to access that information. I don't know if any of you guys have tried to have a squeeze through the different health and wellbeing websites, and there's a lot of links going down lots and lots of different rabbit holes. And I think that, once students are at the point where they do need support, it's often not the best time to be clicking on 100 links trying to find something. And so I think one challenge that has come up a lot is just finding those resources and knowing people who know those resources and who put them in the right direction is definitely something that could be improved, and is something that is so worthwhile when you find someone who's like, yes, this is the right resource for you, I'll put you down that path. So coming as an ambassador from the Student Health Advisory Committee, that's something that we're really actively working on doing. And I know the Wellbeing CoP also has a similar project underway where we're trying to find all those resources and centralise that information so that it is hopefully a little bit easier to navigate in the future.
Speaking about accessibility and like navigating support services, I think it's very difficult for neurodivergent students. All students find it difficult. Academics get lost in the Ethernet of UNSW. But I think by having some sort of centralized space, or I guess vulnerability in terms of academics, and just sharing their experience about their academic journey, because if a student feels that they're not good enough or they're not allowed to do something, they're not allowed to reach out, because that's not how academics work. That's not your life. In a career, you go through many things. Everyone experiences anxiety or depression or burnout. It's like when students, especially teenagers who are just coming from high school, it's like they don't feel that they can reach out or do like the things that they need to kind of better their health, especially their mental health. And I think that if there was more just like this sharing of vulnerability and maybe like a bit of the academic experience, that might help students as well. Yeah,
Maybe I think I agree that resources is like really needed and the accessible one that is centralized one is like very important. I remember that actually like for ARC and UNSW already like provided some of like a training for the mental health first aider for among peers. But the one that I found is like sometimes we don't know like who is the person who already like trained as like a mental health first aider. So maybe it could be also like some like situation in terms of like providing the resource that is like a much more like centralized and people could just like access, for instance, if they would like to access their peers that have already like the training in the mental health first aid, who's the person who in charge that.
A lot of great comments. And one thing that did stand out, which I guess is we need to look at it from different lenses. And here you're seeing the students' viewpoint, but also there is a flip side, which is academics, tutors, lecturers. And it's important to ensure that we come at it from a very empathetic sort of way. And there's always another side to the story. So it's being mindful of what roles we individually have, but then coming collectively to, better engage with the student community and also provide them the best support available. And I totally agree with Eunice as well in terms of there is a lot of information out there. We do live in that digital age and it can get very confusing for students to access resources. And it's important we have festivals like this and have opportunities. For example, the expo happening at the end of the day at lunchtime, you get an opportunity to chat with the students, you get an opportunity to chat with the support services that are going to be down there, psychology and wellness, we will be down there as well. And to share resources and pamphlets and flyers so that educators are better aware of what is available within the university. So a lot to unravel, the conversation's getting interesting. Academia is often seen as an arena of competition, and we spoke about that early on. And one could argue, as we head to a more complex political and social and environmental sort of situation, challenges arise and we need to foster more collaboration and support. So this is a question for everyone here. What impacts do you feel this competitive model places on students' well-being? And what do you think could be done from a university perspective to prepare students for the future? I know some of you mentioned competition. So I hope this out there. Who would like it?
I think there's two words that come to mind when this kind of topic comes up, which is imposter syndrome. Perfectionism. I think even as an academic, I have more academic friends than I do student friends, but a lot of them experience imposter syndrome. We all experience imposter syndrome. There's not one person here that doesn't think that they haven't been able to do their job properly because they're just doubting themselves. And I think that it's such a debilitating and such a hindrance to students in general, everybody. But I think that what I was saying before about the vulnerability and just showing students that we do experience this, and you will experience this in your later life when you're successful. It's like it's just knowing how to support through those and having your own techniques of understanding that how your brain works, for example, or just self-care, things like that have been really critical with this because we all experience very similar issues, but it's the stigma behind these things that needs to be broken.
I think another thing, talking about competition, and I guess the undergraduate or I guess the student experience, is just the sheer amount of students in general can incite very feelings of loneliness. It can incite feelings of, I'm just one drop in 60,000 students here at UNSW, and I'll be the first to say I'm a domestic student. I don't experience the same thing as an international student or a neurodiverse student would. And to be honest, I'm not the demographic that's hard to reach. I'm the one that's out here speaking to you right now. But I think our work in health and wellbeing in terms of competition and the sheer amount of students is trying to get to those hard to reach communities. And I want to share a short story about how we went to Adelaide recently for the Australian International Education Conference. And there was an Adelaide University there, and they spoke about a health promotions program they had. It was called G'day Mate. And you can imagine what it's like for international students to meet with Australian counterparts, to learn a little bit more about Australian culture in a more deliberate way, and that's great. And then I went to go come and think, and that sounds great. Oh, why don't we do it here at UNSW? And then we thought, and we figured out that unfortunately we have a little bit more of a barrier, and it's a cultural barrier, but just on the opposite side, in that a lot of international students, and I think Nati can speak to this, experience a level of comfortability in their social circles. So you'll see a lot of international students intermingling with themselves, which is great and fine. It's just that those are the hard to reach communities where that social group is going to be the group that misses out on getting to know, going to the pub or getting to know what her wellbeing services are because they're quite comfortable in the circle that they are in. And so unfortunately we are missing those populations, and I think that's one of the struggles that we're experiencing right now. Bit of a tangent, but I'll pass on to Tracy.
Thank you. Yes, I think one part of the main challenges, especially in terms of the competition for international students, is related to loneliness, isolation, alienation as well. For instance, it's for me, for the first time I visited Australia, I don't have anybody to talk. So I only have a sum of friends that I already know. Using the WhatsApp group coming from Indonesian community, but I don't have any friend outside of the Indonesian community. And when I started my journey as part of the PhD students, I feel it's very difficult in terms of mingling, because the first barriers, of course, is the language barrier. And then the other one is actually about different lifestyle, custom, a tradition. Because for international students who come to Australia, they already grown up with a set of custom, tradition, values, lifestyles that is different with their peers. So that's why in terms of following PhD journey itself, it's already difficult in terms of our research is usually very specific. The one that know about our research is on yourself, and maybe some part of it owned by the supervisors. And during that process, it's really important to help these international students to navigating the social barriers, how to make them to be more confident, to be more engaged with the international, not with international, but with the local PhD students community as well, or the other postgraduate students community as well. The one that I think is helping me during navigating the process is if I could have someone, at least one person, that I could be trusted. It could be a mentor, for instance, that also have some similar experience as an international PhD student, for instance, that could help me to navigating through the journey. So I don't feel alone during this, the nature of the competition in the academia. And the other thing is also how to encourage not only like the competition, but much more important is how to collaborations. Because like we realize that academia is like a very like a competitive in terms of brands like secure and like a research position and everything. But if like at least in the student community, if each of us would focus on like supporting each other instead of like just like competing, it would be like very helpful. So yeah.
Absolutely, and I think to echo what everyone I think has mentioned, one really big word that comes to mind is community. Because absolutely, like competition and collaboration, I personally think go hand in hand really, really well together. Especially if you want healthy competition, you certainly need collaboration with your peers and with other people. And I think absolutely university is the place to sort of be building those future skills like Madhu's mentioned, and it's the best place to be doing it when we're, starting to branch out, we're working, we have, complex relationships and we have extracurriculars and so many interests outside of just education, especially at the tertiary level. And so I think absolutely university is the right place to be testing the waters and learning how to, function and live in a competitive environment while doing that in a really safe space. And I think the only way that we can truly achieve that is if we build up from the ground up with a really supportive community. And that will really enable people to feel comfortable to, try things and try challenges and face adversity and build that resilience. But I think people will only be able to do that, if they know that there's a supportive community to back them. And I think that's something that we've all sort of touched on already is, both students and academics and staff play a really crucial role in, forming that foundational, welcoming and inclusive and safe community where students can fall back on, but also feel safe enough to step out of their comfort zones and to try things and experience that adversity and build resilience.
Both great points. Something that really did stand out is you've highlighted that sense of community that needs to be established. I think a stronger sense of community within students, but also you've highlighted challenges of loneliness, alienation, and there's different layers if you're looking at different demographics. For example, Raki, you coming from an international student background, and it's really sad to hear that having no friends adds that extra layer of stress, anxiety. And there is evidence out there, and Raki can confirm this as well, that university students are at a high risk for developing, psychosocial challenges and mental disorders because of the immense stress they already have within the classroom and externally, as we can see. So not to dive too much and always talk about the challenges, maybe we can flip the script and dwell a little bit on, how can we better support the community? And this next question is a great segue because it does relate to the diverse audience of academics and professional staff with us here today and online. So establishing boundaries regarding student support and well-being is always very challenging because as academics, for example, tutors, course conveners, lecturers, you may not be sure of your responsibility beyond the classroom or may not be confident enough to provide advice related to student well-being. So this is a question for the students. What ideas do you have to empower academics so that they can better support students? And you did mention a few points early on, but I think going into a bit of detail would really help. Would you like to start? Well,
I want to bring it back to something that you said actually. You posed the question of what to do further beyond the classroom, and I posed the question why? Why don't we know? What can we do, or what is the rubric in a sense of plan of action beyond the classroom? Because I think that at least in high school and primary school, I think it's very clear how we educate children and we deal with children that get attention. That kind of stuff is very structured, and I think that there is this misconception that a lot of university students are adults and they are autonomous and they will be able to manage themselves. But I think from my conversation with a lot of people, they don't feel that way. And touching on what Karen said about imposter syndrome, they're trying to push themselves to be, I'm adulting, I'm doing my taxes, I'm doing this, and I'm trying to be better as an adult, whereas they don't have those fundamentals laying underneath first. So how can they do these kind of things? So with academics, I think that there has to be a more specific and again deliberate rubric or a framework, and that might be in the form of a training. And I know that trying to get like the thousands or the hundreds of academics on campus to do a training to talk about their students' well-being, they'll probably say it's not in my job description. But unfortunately, I think that's a culture thing. That's a thing that's a decision that was made way back when about academics, that they wouldn't care about well-being, and it's our place and time now to actually change that. Nothing ever changes unless we actually deliberately put in place measures. And unfortunately, academic these days will probably be like, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to do this, and that's okay because change is hard anyways.
I think the culture of like just push on, just get it done. Don't care about anything else, just get it done. I think if academics could show empathy, and also I guess acknowledge that they care about students. Like if exam periods are coming up, it's like, okay, well, like in my lecture, I'll advise students of the support resources that are available, because like, yeah, maybe in the first slide in the first week you might get access to that, and it's like, I'm actually struggling, which I'm probably not going to look for resources because I've got so much on for one. If you get a constant reminder, this is kind of what students need at times. I think also helping students, like, not only just be able to like let them know they can ask questions, but like how to ask the right questions. Because I think that encouraging critical thinking and higher order processing thinking, I think is something that needs to change, because I think academics, they think they're doing that, but I don't think they are in my perception. And I also think that I did a conference called last term, which was COM 1120, and the tutors from business, but also she had social psychology, which was amazing, because within the assessments, we had to make a team contract, identify everybody's strengths and weaknesses, and like what we need to support with, and like what we can support other people with. That was a part of the assessment, and I think that with any research and a project in or assessments that students do, I think they need to understand that like this is how the real world works, and you need to kind of understand yourself and how other people work around you, so you can like best get the results. I think, you know, that's something that's about for me.
Thank you. Maybe for adding that, I agree that some training and workshop like this would be like very important as well for the academicians to have more knowledge and also like skills like to help the students in terms of like the students' well-being, and then like having like the clear guidelines, like a protocol, but what is like the barriers or like what kind of like step by step that university lecturer should do, for instance, if they would like to decide to help the students who have like some well-being issues. Which is, I think, is very important, because some of academics maybe, yes, like might have said that I feel like there are some like boundaries that they couldn't like do to like reach out to students. But if uni have some kind of like the clear guidelines, and as well as about like the protocol about how to refer to the students, how to like identifying about like the distress among the students, what is like the steps that they could do, and who is like the person who could like talk to, is very important. And then actually like it could be started by creating a work culture among the academicians that is like also like central to the like the well-being of themselves first. Because what I feel is sometimes the academicians like not really know like how to like handle the well-being issues among students, because maybe they're also like struggling with their own well-being, because like you said before, like the nature of the competitiveness in the academia, they just like focusing on their like target and everything. So they don't really like central their focus into the well-being of students. So I think that's what I think. Yeah.
Thank you, and I really echo those points. I think as students, we don't expect all our academics to have all the answers. We don't expect you to know everything. But I think, as many people have already mentioned, like it would be great if you guys could just point us in the right direction and know where to refer us to, and be willing to walk with us in that process. I remember as someone who has multiple chronic health conditions, I was really struggling in first and second year. And I reached out to one of my tutors, who's actually sitting here today, and she was so supportive. She doesn't need to be able to answer all the questions, but she was able to walk with me to access the right support and to get to the right people. And that was exactly what I think a lot of students just need, is someone to guide them and to go with them, and not necessarily, know how to solve all of our problems. And I think I really agree with your point here about looking after yourselves as well, because I think as students we can often tell if staff feel or look really stressed out, or look really overwhelmed, and I think as students we can sense that. So I think by looking after yourselves, it's really good role modeling for us as well to see, oh, my lecturers have interest outside of this, and it really helps us connect with you guys as well. So yeah, I just really wanted to emphasize that point.
So one more thing is, I think also the promotion of diversity and inclusion within lectures, and the importance of telling students that there's multiple ways of actually solving the problem. It's we taught one way, but it's no student thinks the same way or knows how to problem solve the same way. So everybody's brains are different. Neurodiversity is a whole complete level to that. It's I think if academics were more promoting that and allowing students to understand that there are differences, and maybe they might need to seek help in certain circumstances if they are struggling with certain things, but also that they can reach out to them at any point. They're probably not going to, but just knowing that it's a huge weight on their shoulders, because they know that they can be on a tutor that is there to support them if they need it. I've never really had that shown within the lecture, so I think that helps as well.
It's reassuring to know it's not all doom and gloom. As you can see, it's great to see stories of academics who have had an impact on these students by even just checking in with them or asking how they're doing, or even, showcasing that they're also traveling fine. And I think that's really important. And the other thing which I thought was really interesting was creating that environment within the, setting up your assignments to ensure that well-being is an integral part of whatever assignment that the student may be doing, similar to what Aaron had mentioned. And the aspect about being specific and deliberate, and we'll later touch on this as well, there is a module out called Supporting Students in Distress, available to academics, professional staff. Come and see us at the expo to learn more, but it gives a basic understanding to academics on how do you support a student in distress. But that's not the point. We need to support them early on. They should not be in distress. So doing that module is definitely going to give you more insight, but watch this space. And we have spoken a lot about the challenges, so it can feel like, it's a one-track conversation, but on the flip side, UNSW is doing a lot to support the students' well-being. And this is a question for all, because I know you are all students who work within the health and well-being programs or have contributed to working groups, committees, subcommittees. And what are some of the initiatives that you've heard, seen, that have successfully been implemented inside the classroom, outside the classroom, to better support the student well-being? Anyone would like to start? Go on.
I think inside the classroom, that has the student ambassador program. I'm a student ambassador. Before I learned how to advocate for myself and my accessibility needs, I struggled a lot. I don't anymore, because if there's a problem with my learnings, I'll let the academic know. And within that, they're predominantly education focused, which is amazing. But I think having a student ambassador program within any course is essential, because there's a power dynamic between students and academics. And I think that the student ambassadors bridge that gap. And by, for example, we had an assessment that was due on Monday, 5 p.m. weeknight, and the lab before on Thursday, before it was due, I went around to students and how are you feeling about this? Because we can interact with students and they love talking to students. It's easier, students talking to students. But a lot of them had 3 assessments due that week, and I was so stressed, and I hadn't even started some of them. And I was like, okay, well, what can I do as a student ambassador? I can take a survey and ask if they'd like an extension to Sunday, 12 p.m., letting them all know that there's no after hours services, like they can be in contact with, there's no support after a certain time and not on weekends. So they all knew this and they took that on board. So they could either have support 4 or 5 p.m. on Friday or just submit on the Sunday, and that was great. 64 out of the 65 students chose it a yes. And the funny thing was, I didn't realize how much I needed it. I have chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, IBS. Like, it was such a huge weight lifted off myself as well. It was just like, to have more advocacy within the course and to have actually real-time change. I think my experience, I don't want to say too much about it, but I think that there's so much real-time change that can happen within the course when you've got students who are asking students directly, and then by the end of the course, there's so much change that can happen, and that helps many things with the student experience, improves their mental health, because they just know that the challenges they're facing are actually really changing in real time.
Thank you, and I love what you said about what's happening in BAS. I also wanted to just take it to my own faculty, which is medicine and health, and talk about a really nice initiative that we have, which is the Student Wellbeing Action Group. So this is a group that comprises of both student representatives, of which I'm one, as well as many of the faculty executives and a lot of the leaders and academics there who are passionate about helping students and improving our well-being. So as part of this group, we've done a lot of different initiatives, one of which is our self-care days. So this is a recent thing that we implemented where students are allowed up to 2 personal self-care days in 1 8-week rotation. And it's great. You don't need a sick note. You don't need to really explain yourself. But if you're not quite feeling yourself, or you want a day off to just look after yourself and do some self-care, which Aaron has really emphasised, you're allowed to do that, and you just let your academics and teachers know a day before, and that's all good. And you know, I love that that's been implemented because of student feedback, and it's great to see that faculty have listened to that and really taken that on board and, you know, allowed us to do something like that, because I think it's made a world of difference to a lot of students, myself included. And it's nice to see that our academics are now treating it as something that's really encouraged and as something that, you know, is used to build our own negotiation and professionalism skills. And I think it's a really great way of also implementing, you know, real world experiences. So, you know, like there will be days where we might need to take a day off work, and that's not unheard of, right? So I think it's nice that, you know, we have that opportunity to practice that, and that's really well encouraged within the faculty at the moment. We also have other initiatives under our Building Communities subgroup, which is where students and faculty have like gone together and done like sporting challenges together. We've, you know, redone the whole of our Walsworth building and made it very cozy and very homey and made it so much more welcoming and inviting. And I think all of these little things really, you know, highlight how much academics and faculty really want to support students. And they're like great examples of how really simple things like, you know, faculty coming out to a sporting game with us can make such a difference in terms of building our community up as well.
Maybe I would just add, I really agree that actually like having like the support team, like a community is like really helpful, which is in UNSW where I've always like each of faculty and school, they already have like student representative, and they also have like their kind of actions, which is actually like helping the students in their school or in the faculty to like navigating like the process during the study and everything. The one that also I feel, and maybe like because I'm also like involved in one of the like programs, it's actually like having like a mentor or like a tutor. This could be like a trusted persons who will be like a person who could, you know, like helping you and listening you like very carefully to understanding about like your needs, and then helping you to, you know, like navigating all the challenges that you have as like students. For instance, is I have like a role as one of the like study skills support tutor who actually like help students who have like a neuro like divorce, the one that has like struggling with their study, the one that has like a problem with the time management skill and everything. Sometimes the one-on-one connection is also like very important. Not only creating like the supporting like the community, but there are some of the person who might be like too introvert to, you know, like to mingle in like a big group. So I think it's very important as well to having like someone who acting as your teacher or as your mentor who could, yeah, you reach out to like asking for something that you really need to. Yeah, just piggybacking, I think, on what everybody said. In my faculty's School of Engineering, or Faculty of Engineering actually, some of the classes they actually do have student tutors, and that has, in my opinion, helped me a lot, feel a lot more personal with them. So I think that's already been mentioned, but just shout out to Faculty of Engineering.
So I just wanted to mention the PASS program. So James is here today, and I'm a PASS leader, and by having I guess the PASS program within certain courses, so many students benefit from that because there's so many extra questions that they either don't know how to ask academics or they just feel scared. And by talking to a student that has already done the course and that's very approachable and it just helps them so much. I love it when the student's like, I'm just not quite sure if this is the answer. I'm like, okay, that's fine. If it's not, that's okay. They're learning how to just be more confident in themselves, and it's just such a rewarding experience. And I think that if more courses had passed, it would be a game changer. Here's the student support, I'm sure.
And to add on to that as well, you have great programs and initiatives within the UNSW landscape. You know, you have the cultural mentors from the student engagement team where students are linked with other students from their own culture. So to give them that transition into the Australian way of life, academia, whatever it is, even if it's just in a social context, it has an impact far beyond that, as well as, you know, peer-assisted learning, peer mentoring program. There's numerous programs which you can check out on the UNSW website. And diving into more of the co-design approach, and I think that's something I really want to highlight here. Haley, you've worked with student communities as a leader in the health and wellbeing space. What do you think works for students within that space?
Well, getting them involved in issues and initiatives that affect them is obviously a good first point. I think that I'll center this around the experience working with the colleges actually, which I think this year we did a lot more work with them in terms of health and wellbeing of the sexual health space. So over this September period during September, obviously, we had TKC does September, so the Kensington colleges does September, and the colleges, as you imagine, is a very nuanced place. A lot of young uni students all packed together really tightly. A lot of social dynamics, a lot of groups, a lot of social stuff. There's so much stuff going on. But anyways, actually planning that event with the Kensington colleges with their student fellows was probably the best thing that we employed, because I've never been to college, let alone being an international student at college either. So I don't know what it's like at college. So we had 2 student fellows, actually 3 or 4 student fellows, because it was the 3 colleges, actually jump on board and work together to co-create this. And we were very grateful to get a budget from Medbank to actually fund the event. But it was really great to see all 3 colleges come out and actually just start the conversation surrounding sex and healthy relationships and consent. And I think that has been a very hot topic, especially in colleges for a very long time. And it's only been like getting a bit louder recently. And it's still easy, even though we live in such an open and liberal country, like consent and sexual misconduct is something that's still very prevalent. And unfortunately in colleges, they experience a high level of it. So being able to co-create that initiative with the student fellows was probably the best thing that we employed, I guess, leading that. Oh, sorry.
So it's really important that students do have a voice in that whole co-creation process, and it's integral because they have to give back give their feedback to strengthen these approaches, because this is programs targeted at their community. Now, within that process, at the university, we do tend to get specific types of students who are passionate about health and well-being, students who are passionate about giving back to the community, students like these ones in front of you. How do we encourage students who may be less confident or apathetic to be more involved in the decision-making process for health and well-being of the community? So how do we reach those students who we really need to target I'd like to open this. Maybe Eunice, you can start off and everyone else can have a look.
Thank you. So I was definitely that very unconfident person, especially in first and second year. I was very, very quiet. And I think to a little extent I still am now. But I think having spoken, and I think Reggie spoke about this a lot, having really great mentors and even older students and mentors and tutors who have been in a similar position and, tap me on the shoulder and were like, hey, Eunice, why don't you try for this? Why don't you put your hand up and just give it a go? Having that little voice in your ear can make a world of difference. And look where I am now, it's kind of surreal. Because I never would have put my hand up to do this back in first year, but definitely not. So I think again it comes back to having that really safe community and students knowing each other and feeling able to lift each other up. And I think great leadership obviously can spearhead that. And I think academics can also play a really important role in knowing your students, knowing who they are, and being able to, be that little voice in somebody's ear and being like, why don't you go for this? You might not, be that stereotypical person who always puts their hand up and does things, but, you might be perfect for this, give it a go. So I think knowing your students is really, really important for this. Because, everyone's experiences are so different and we can, only speak for our own experiences. So it's so important to lift up everybody's voices and make sure that everyone has a chance to share their experience as well.
Actually, yeah, I really agree that actually help for the persons or maybe for me itself is because I'm coming from the international students background, I feel like some, a language barriers itself to express my ideas. So creating a safe and also a space community who supported you and also encourage you to just go with that and you have the capability for that. So makes me more confident to express my opinion, to also contribute to the community itself. So yeah, having that kind of space that you feel safe, you feel secure, you feel accepted as well from wherever you are. It's really helpful for encourage each of students to be more involved in the question.
I think something that helped me was I did the Leadership Foundations program for employability, and that really helps, I guess, just develop more of my leadership skills because I have them. I can manage a kitchen, I can manage a project, but managing studying in the classroom and just university dynamics, not easy. Especially for a diverse person. But I think that doing that and then also becoming a mentor for other students going through that kind of program, I think was really great. And I think that just acknowledging diversity and inclusion as well is so important. I think that we can reach those students who feel like they're just so alone and they have nowhere to turn because they don't know how to or who to turn to. I think we can definitely improve well-being for sure.
I want to bring it back to your question. You mentioned, you used the word apathetic, and I'm not sure what other word that you use to describe these less confident students. And I think that through my conversations with international students and in the international student space, I think it's important to highlight that it might not necessarily be that they're apathetic or less confident, it's just a cultural barrier. And you can imagine, I don't know if we have any other international students here in the room, but I don't want an international student being quiet and not feeling like they fit in to be perceived as they're apathetic and they're not confident and they don't want to join in, because they do. They're here in Australia and they can't go back very easily, right, to where they might be more comfortable. So I think that having that consideration in our minds, I think it's easy to see a quiet person be like, they don't want to join in. It's easier for me to just go on my day and continue. And it is harder to go to them, encourage them and say, you're welcome here and let's do something together. It is harder. But changing that in people's minds and being like, instead of thinking, oh, that's an apathetic student, that's a student that might be struggling, immersing themselves culturally. So I think that's a consideration to have.
So just wanted to add on from that in terms of like the different forms of engagement for different students. So it's like a student might not look engaged or like look like they want to contribute, but I guess by offering like multiple modes of mindset, for example, you can put a question in the chat if you've got an online lecture, or you could like email me after class. It's like some students don't like putting the camera on, for example, or putting the microphone on, or like putting questions into the chat, but giving multiple modes of like, I guess, contact or things like that, and acknowledging that everyone, I guess, contributes in their own different ways, for example. I think that could help as well.
And I think that would be really, as I guess, confident people sitting here, we really need to spearhead that conversation and be the ones that are embarrassed and be the ones that are a bit out there, because sometimes quieter or less confident people need to see someone else do it first. And you know what? Like, if we've got the confidence, why not?
Kelly, I should have chosen a different word to frame that question in a different way. It's all wonderful what you've all said, because we really want to create that comfort zone, for the student to be welcomed into the classroom, and that could potentially be, opening up the chat box, or checking in, or giving them an opportunity, showcasing other opportunities that might help them get out of their own comfort zone. The way Eunice was tapped on the shoulder by a couple of friends and told, hey, you know what, why don't you look into this? Join the Ambassador program, join the Leadership Foundations program. And I think educators are important in that aspect to really try and provide these opportunities to their own students. And that allows them to come out of their shell and really have an impact, because we really want to engage with students from a health promotions perspective, from UNSW Health and Wellbeing. But we want to attract those students who don't have a voice and be a voice to the voiceless. And I'm going to change things up here a bit. I know we have about 10 minutes before we wrap up with the final question. Anyone has a question here? I know there was a lot of head nodding, and I've been looking at the Padlet as well. Nothing's come through. If there is anything online, please let me know. I'm happy to pass around the mic. This is a great opportunity to, spend a minute and be asking questions to the student panelists. Anyone? Yeah, sure. Here you go, sir.
Way down the back, sorry. Look, it's fabulous to hear whatever you said today, and in particular because I'm coming from educators' perspective. We've covered a lot of stuff about the university level stuff and communities and all these other things. But when you started talking about individual things that an academic can do in their course, it really resonates with me, because that's my area of power, shall I say. So a lot of the things that you suggested I hadn't thought of, so it's been awesome. There's one question I'm not sure you're going to have an answer for, and it's a really tough one. It's something that I've grappled with for the last couple of years. There's always in my course one or two students who are just essentially ghosts. They're part of the course. I should preface that my entire course is online, so we've got no face-to-face stuff at all, so it's a bit challenging in that context. There is one or two students, sometimes more, that are there. I can see that occasionally handing stuff in, but it's sporadic. I've tried to engage with them through email, just reaching out. Whenever something doesn't get completed or it's completed poorly, it's just checking. I don't get any responses whatsoever. I've talked to my colleagues about this, and the usual response is, well, you can't please everyone, you can't, cater for everyone. But I kind of find it really hard to believe that a student would ever choose to fail a course. So I guess my question is there a way to connect with that student that seems to be struggling for whatever reason? Because I've got things in my toolkit that I can offer them if they just tell me what's going on, or gives me some insight on their circumstances, so I can offer the right tools. Have you guys got? So I contact it through email, and I send it several times up to a point, because I feel like if you do it too much, you end up harassing the student, causing more anxiety. I don't know whether it's a perception that because I'm the educator, I'm the lead academic, I'm unapproachable, this is the person who's marking me. There's a power dynamic there that needs to be considered as well. using the Moodle kind of inquiry post stuff. I've thought of as well, but then students have told me that no one reads those things. Because you get a digest of 1,001 things in there and students just don't do it. So I do it through a personal email. But other than that, I'm kind of at a loss. I don't want to give up on the students because I think they could, you know, they could be pushed through to have a mark they would actually be comfortable with rather than failing.
It's a challenge, especially in post-COVID environment where we have moved into online learning a lot and replaced face-to-face lectures. Anyone want to try and help out this academic?
There might not be an answer.
Yeah.
I can try, but I think what the person said to you that you can't please everybody. I think the key is we can try our very best, and I think that's what we're trying to do, which is, I love that mentality. I think that's a tough question. I think potentially just showing that there's multiple, like if you're struggling with certain things, I don't know, there's many things a student could be going through, but it's like if they know that if you're struggling with this, you need to go here, or like if you're struggling with handling an assessment, it's okay. I need to know, like I don't, there's obviously some barriers, or like it might be a home environment, and like we don't know, but I think there's just many things to consider, but I think maybe just showing students that, like, yeah, if you're struggling with this through here indirectly, that might be sort of some benefit. But and this, students, like a friend of theirs that you can connect with, but I'm not sure.
Thank you for not giving up on this. That's great. I think that I'm not sure if you run lectures, if you lecture or if you tutor or what kind of academic standpoint you're in, but if you do run lectures and they're relatively small classes, or if you do tutor and they're relatively small classes, you can take the power, the social power that other students have and actually collectively bring it together and include them in that if they do come to class. For example, you might be like show and tell, something as simple as that. You can do it first. Here is my football that I got signed by so-and-so. It's very nice. I got it in this, and they won the premiership in this. And then you and then pass it on. I think when people are like, oh, we'll all introduce ourselves, and then I introduce myself, and then we're just kind of like, we have to actually deliberately pass on the baton. And then Aaron, and then off to you, and off to you, because it has to be a collective experience. It has to be collectively pushed together. And I guess another small thing, but I do think it makes a big difference, is actually how you I guess, conduct yourself. My physics lecturer, in the emails she sends through, which I read, I'm not sure if other people read them, but she sends photos of her cats. And as much as that other people might not be into cats, it's just something that's personal. It's just like, here are my cats, or here are my plants, or something like that. It really just helps bring that academic and student learning just together.
I think also before we were talking about empathy and understanding, and I was showing the students that it's okay if you're struggling, you can reach out. I don't know how you've contacted them, or like what you've sent emails or something like that, but I think maybe doing like a call slide announcement, however that happens, like just to show them that if anybody is struggling, like this is something that definitely I am here, because it's a hard one.
I think I agree that sometimes when it's already happened, maybe we couldn't do anything, but we could prevent that happen, which is creating a small supportive community in class, which is at least each of the students know each other. So for instance, it's one of the students is couldn't come again to class, maybe their friends know where they are going, what happened to them, something like that. And then a regular checking is also very important. Yes. Right, these issues. And maybe the one that I should highlight, I really agree that we never know about what is the main reason why the students decide to be failing in this class. Maybe not because of our class, but maybe they have their own maybe family issues or personal issues, I don't know, issues that they couldn't they don't know how to it, so they just to drop off in all the classes that they already take this term.
I think I agree with everything that's already been said. But I think like a whole of course approach, I think what Haley and Aaron sort of alluded to a bit earlier might be like one way to give it a go, because I think sometimes if you get, you know, a direct email from someone, it's like, oh no, I'm being singled out, what have I done now? So I think maybe like a whole of course approach, whether it be, you know, like making those announcements about different support services to everybody, or even like student mentoring, I think has been raised, because sometimes it is that power differential that really worries students. So if you have, you know, a peer to talk to, or like an older student who's finished the course of unit that you teach, that could be one way to go about it as well.
I think before, when you said, sorry, chose on it, when they choose to do something, students never, and you said before, students never choose to fail.
Yeah.
They're here to learn, and they're here to grow, and they're here to develop themselves. And there's obviously so many external pressures that they're not, you know, to cope with for that to happen. So I guess trying to be as mindful about all of those areas is something as well to make sure.
Thank you, everyone. And there are impacts that you may not see, positive impacts as well. So academics out there who are trying to support students, keep on doing the hard work, and you know, some things you might not see, but there might be some positive impact that will affect the students' life. I'm mindful of time, and I think we've just wrapped up an hour, and we'd love to continue talking. Just as a last sort of point, please do reflect if you were to take away something today, just from whatever standpoint you're viewing this as a student, as an academic. If you could implement one thing that supports students' well-being within the education space, within the classroom, externally, what would that be? So maybe that's something you reflect on as you go by your day to day. And I just want to wrap up by saying huge thanks to the panelists. They've been wonderful. The students have been fantastic to learn Thank you for your insights and being vulnerable and courageous to share your stories. Huge thanks to the Student Wellbeing CoP team led by Melanie, Chris, and Jess. The CoP has been a great platform for me to exchange ideas, insights, and highlight the gaps in student wellbeing space with the aim of addressing them. And I'd also like to very quickly thank the PVCSE Educational Engagement team who have put together the entire week of Edu Fest. So big round of applause to them. It's a great platform to give educators an opportunity to come together to learn about practices inside and outside the classroom as well. So, and thank you to the audience for being engaged, asking questions as well. And I sincerely hope you've taken a lot from today's discussion. And after this panel, please do check out, there's a bunch of great presentations as well as an expo later on. So we hope to see you. And if you'd like to chat with our students, if they're available, I'm sure they're more than happy to do so. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, Madhav, and thanks to all the students. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. I think maybe what we need is consultation sessions with students, like we have at the Teaching Commons with academics. The ideas that you have are fantastic, and you give so much to us. And that, I like what Aaron said about the just-in-time sort of approach to feedback in the course, because I think the issue that we as academics, and I'm speaking on behalf of us all, but with my experience is that the feedback that we get from students, in my experience, is not necessarily impacting the students who give it. And so I really like that idea of having the students, have some impact within the course. We'll be back here at 11 o'clock for the next session. And as a thank you to all of you students, Chris and Melanie will send you a little letter to say thank you and give some context to what you brought to our sessions, that you can use that for any purpose that you'd like to. And that was something tangible that we can give you to say thank you. Thanks everyone, back here at 11. So we're very tight on time, and that was because I wanted to try and include everybody who put in an EOI. So apologies for the very short 5-minute presentations and only probably time for one question. There is a Padlet that I have on each for the introductory slide. This QR code here is for registration. So if you would like to leave your contact details and let us know who you are and where you're from, we can send you an email with information about the community of practice if that's something that you'd like. What what we're going to do is we've got our lovely Mel Cross here, who's our project officer for the CoP. She's got, for people who are presenting, Mel has got some signs to tell you when you've got 1 minute to go and then when it's time to stop. So this is just to allow everybody to do their presentations. So the Padlet is there, the title of the presentation that is currently being presented. You can find the section to post questions there, and then the person who's presenting can go onto the Padlet and add comments to answer your questions. All right, so the first speaker that we have for today is Pranit. So he's going to be presenting to us about improving student wellbeing and belonging through collaborative rubric design.
Sitting over something. Yeah, you do it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you can hear me. My voice is not very good, but I think it's getting better. So I've got all full 5 minutes to go. So my name is Pranit. I'm from the business school, and I'm here to talk to you about how we can improve student well-being by collaborative rubric design. We know that students often struggle with have a heightened sense of stress and anxiety around assessments, right? That's a little bit of stress and anxiety is nothing wrong with that. It's probably quite good, but sometimes it becomes overwhelming. So what can we do to reduce the stress and anxiety within our curriculum itself? And Peter Felton often talks about, for example, how can we make our curriculum more transparent, right? So what I do is I make my assessments transparent through collaborative rubric design. So there are a number of initiatives that I put in my course, but the first thing involves getting students in the first class, getting students into small groups as an icebreaker, and I share my rubric through the Padlet with my students. The students sit down with each other in their small groups, talk to each other, have a look at the assessment requirements, have a look at the rubrics, and identify areas of the rubric that they do not understand. And towards the end of that activity, we have a class discussion and we change the wordings that the students do not understand, or the wordings that the students find confusing. For example, if you look at the middle column over there, I started with demonstrating mastery. Many of us probably use those kinds of words. My students had no idea what that meant. Most of them were international students. Well, that's no excuse, but many domestic students often do not understand what that means. So we were able to reword that as well, but we go through that for each and every item in the rubric, and then we settle on a particular rubric, and that's what we use throughout that term, throughout that particular assessment. That particular item just doesn't sit on its own. There's a whole lot of other initiatives that come together as well, including self-assessment, self-grading, etc. But that's another story for another time. What do the students feel about it? How do the students think about that? For example, so at the end of the week, for example, every student is required to write a short reflection about what they've done that week. This one here, for example, one of the students commented, week one was quite refreshing, getting to know everybody from different backgrounds and experience. Here we go, I'm making connections, getting students to make connections right at the beginning. Another is going through the course outlines and projects. Also reviewing the grades outlines, focusing on how best to score a HD. So students are focusing on outcomes. How can they maximize the outcomes? And the last thing that really gets me is this. Quite satisfied overall, and my input was also considered. So students suddenly feel as if they belong in this course. Right from day one, first day, they feel like they belong in the course. And I don't think I've gone over my 5 minutes.
Any questions?
Yeah.
We're gonna give you this for the people online, so you won't be able to see people asking questions.
Hi, Brennan. I was just wondering, how did you get the students to collaborate in the first place so they could understand the diversity, get the inclusion kind of, I guess?
That's a very good question. Can I get a microphone because my voice is not very good. Let's look initially, it's just an icebreaker, for example. I don't mind if students just sort of choose their friends kind of thing, but I'm a little bit deliberate. Can you, the person that's sitting there, can you come and sit here kind of thing? So I move them around a little bit. It's not that important, for example, at that point kind of thing, but as it has been pointed out in the panel earlier, for example, it allows me and it allows the students to form those connections so that they're able to carry each other along the learning journey.
I think one last question if you have time. Anyone else? That's okay. If you have questions, add them to the Padlet and then I'll get to them. Thank you. Okay, so next we have Valerie. Move that to suit you. Because I haven't. Is that all right?
Both. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Valerie, and by the sound of it, I may sound a little French. So I'm a lecturer in French studies in the School of Humanities and Languages, and I will talk to you about team-based learning. Okay, so welcome to French 1 and French 2. And that's more or less what my two courses look like. No lectures, an empty lecture hall, because we have adaptive learning lessons that are online in Moodle. And this is my cohort. 200 students with apparently no cohesive belonging. We have first-year students. We have postgrads, third level or stage 3, whatever, from our own faculty, from all over campus, medicine, engineering, wherever. And they can be first year, second year, I've already said that, but they can be gen ed, they can be major, free elective, so no cohesion. And how can you encourage this, which is more or less timely engagement with the content before attending the tutorials, and get that, which is the ideal interaction within the tutorial? Well, the answer I found at the Course Design Institute with Alex, and that's team-based learning. That was my eureka or light bulb moment. That's what I need. Why? Because it encourages a very friendly competition. And that friendly competition is between teams of students to get the right answers to a little quiz. And no collaboration means no success. They have to all agree on the correct answers. So this is what it looks like. During the first 10 minutes of every single tutorial for the whole term, they will have a friendly quiz online in Teams within Socrative. We tweaked the original team-based learning because we didn't do the individual questions. Those are embedded within the online lessons. But so they get on Teams together, and because we have online tutorials, we didn't do it with pen and paper, but it can easily be done with pen and paper. They have 5 to 8 questions, and let's win that race. At the end, they are given the opportunity to review the questions and get formative feedback. Of course, we test them on the key points in the lesson. And very quickly in the term, the focus changes. We don't want to win the race anymore. We simply want to get it right. And it's beautiful to see the students coming to class prepared. They have their notes with the lesson and everything, and they're ready to discuss the lesson together. Obviously in English, we are only at stage 1 and 2 of the French learning journey. And the student voice is incredible. This is their favorite activity in the course. It is not assessed, and it is just a moment of joy for them. You can check what they are saying in the My Experience evaluations. Enjoy atmosphere of learning, that's being together, looking forward to the tutorials, because it gave a sense of connectedness. And that's the connection. Because students would change teams all the time, they got to know all of their classmates. And some of them saying it was their favorite because it seemed competitive, but being sociable. You also have here encourage discussion amongst peers, and I get to know my classmates, even in an online environment. So it worked really, really well for us, and it's a lot of fun for everyone, including the tutors. I gave you the references here. You can know more with Alex. Just register for the Course Design Institute. She will have plenty to say about it. You have team-based learning collaborative, where you will learn the true version of it. We only practice the tweaked version, but we are very happy with it. And it turns out flipped classroom works really well with team-based learning. There is an article here, and it shows that students may not necessarily do better, but they will enjoy it more because they have this sense of connection and support from the whole class. And I gave you Socrative as well. It's a free app. You can use it if you find it fun. Pen and paper works really well too. Okay, and that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Valerie. We have time for one question. Can I ask a question?
Sorry, it's a very mechanical question, but Valerie, once do you choose the groups and you change it each session, like so that they really get to know each other?
No need, because students sometimes arrive late or things, and this is quite organic. And sometimes there is a spot here and there is no spot. And very often the groups move, but sometimes, yes, I tend to say, oh, why don't you use this seat?
Yeah.
I tend to do that from time to time, but not necessarily.
Yeah. And are you saying that you set the questions on the content that will be done today? Or is it?
The questions are set on the content that was on the online lesson. So they are supposed to watch the lesson online first because they have no lectures. And then they arrive in the tutorial and they have to be prepared. Because our tutorials are meant to be application of the lesson. They are here to apply, not to learn the lesson. So in team-based learning, you have a module having the theory, then individual question sets or tests, and then the team, and then application of the lesson. What we did is we have the individual questions within the online learning sessions, and then the team competition, and then application of the lesson within the tutorial.
Thank you so much, Valerie.
Thank you very much.
next we have Jade and Jordan. Want people online to speak into
The mic,
the mic. Yeah, and I'm just gonna turn this so that they can see. Yes. And there is a clip. So advance the slide.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yeah, great. Good morning to everybody in the room and also to people online. My name is Jane Campbell and I'm a team coordinator in Library Learning Services at UNSW, and I'm also the coordinator of the Library Peer Mentor program. I've been working in libraries for over 16 years now, and I really love the role that libraries play in helping to foster connection, community, and belonging.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm one of the library peer mentors. I found this role as an undergrad student in science, and then I've returned to it now that I'm doing a PhD in immunology. But it's been really exciting to take part in this program and even help watch and develop this role as we try and target needs at the university.
Okay, so the program started last year in term 3, and with the aim of assisting students with library skills and also just in navigating university life. The service is available to all students at UNSW, and the program offers peer-to-peer support across terms 1, 2 and 3. By bringing a peer support program into the library, we've expanded awareness of library services, but also support systems across the university. At the start of the program, we recruited students from 3rd year and above with great academic standing, and from all faculties across the university. While initially thinking that this service would be primarily academic assistance, we quickly realised that there was a need for a more rounded, holistic service that helps students throughout their whole student journey. We noticed that many students were looking for support with skills like time management, finding social networks, finding jobs, and also accommodation is a common question we get, and other general study and life skills. And I think by what the panel said this morning, you'd see that these are common things that people need help with. So we began as a drop-in service from Monday to Thursday, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. And it was a one-on-one support service. And in term 1, 2023, we doubled those hours to midday till 6 p.m, Monday to Thursday. And then in term 2 this year, we introduced group events. The topics of events were based on the common questions that we had in one-on-one sessions. And we decided to sort of base the events off the timetable of the term. So, you know, some of the early ones would be on just general introduction, getting to know each other, and then it would be about how to WAM your exam and et cetera, et cetera. So we put them out in the term based on what we thought people would need throughout the term. The addition of these events was well received by students, and it was a great opportunity for networking, also meeting new friends, and for some students, they really valued the practice of learning their English language skills in a group environment. They also really enjoyed the winning of prizes and the free food that came with attending the events. So now we've added a book ahead option so that students can book in a time before they come rather than just having the drop in availability, and that allows students to get their appointment ahead of time. Over to Jordan.
Yeah, so on top of our other services, we're always trying to find new ways to support students and foster happiness at the library. So we've got giveaways, games, and afternoon teas, which have been a source of fun and welcome breaks in student study schedules. We've had a mentor-produced podcast, which covered topics on managing university life, and also a few snack trolleys, which provided relief during exams and also just sort of emphasized that the library is a place that cares. So before our first snack trolley, we put a notice board at the front of the library asking students for their favorite study snacks. And then we tried to order as many as we could, and we just handed them out in weeks 9 and 10. At the beginning of term 3, library mentors also got the opportunity to complete the mental health first aid training, which helped equip us with supporting students through mental health crises and providing information on how to get help. So what have students said about the service? Well, you can see our feedback has been hugely positive. The kind of language students are using, friendly, helpful, approachable, patient. It seems that students feel a lot of comfort in the fact that we have a shared experience with them. We're also students and we've gone through it too. And what have we learned from all of this? Well, with every term that passes, we gather a better understanding of what students are valuing in our service. We've found that the program works best when it's flowing with the term. So during the first 5 weeks, the events that are structured are the most popular, but as exams and stress pick up, informal events, wellness activities, and of course, food become better at meeting students where they're at. That being said, students will never turn down food at any point during the term. And so next year, we're trying to broaden our offering of snacks and drinks to some more healthy and varied options. Term 3 also brought in an influx of engagement with the international student community, as well as other support services across the university. So in our next year, we're hoping to continue fostering these relationships and growing this more. We'll also be continuing to experiment, learn, and listen to students on what's working for them. Thanks for your time, and
You beat the clock.
there you go.
Do we have a question?
How do you promote it?
So the question is, how do you promote it?
We've been experimenting with that one. So for next year, we'll be promoting some of our networking events on the OEIC website. So we're going to run a few events in OEIC next year. We use social media. We've been experimenting with a variety of different social media, and Shasha here, who was one of our previous mentors who now actually works in the library, has been fundamental in experimenting with how we do that. So the international audience, we have been using, well, Shasha has been posting on a Mandarin speaking platform, and that has really, we've got our registrations just go up as soon as she posts. It will just be bang, 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 bang. So social media, lots of leaflets, lots of standing at the front of the library, handing out brochures and more snacks. So food, gets people's attention. We're also, partnering with more and more services across the university. Just sort of, we cross promote other services. So you'll hear about PASS later on. If we think we're sort of a generalist service, if the student says I need help with a specific subject that we know another service provides help with, we'll refer on to that. So I think we all cross promote, and I think we also we just constantly look for new ways to sort of talk about ourselves. So I would really appreciate any academics in the room today. If you do have students who are struggling, please let them know about the service. We're there 4 days a week. They are students from all of the different faculties, and they love helping other students. They've all been there before. They can all talk about vulnerability. They can all talk about when they struggle with assignments, when they struggle to figure out how they're going to hand in all they've got 4 assignments due on 1 week. They've got really great strategies and tips. So yeah, if you can all promote it, we'd love to see more and more students turning up to our events, turning up to our one-on-one consultations, and yeah, we just love to see that, people's usage of the service grow and grow and grow. Thank you for the question, and thanks to everyone thanks for letting us speak.
Thank you very much for coming to share your practice. I think one thing that I take away from this, and I know personally, is that food breaks down barriers. Whatever those barriers are, food is the answer. All right, so next we have Madam and Oliver. So Oliver is joining us online, so he's there on the screen for you.
Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me?
Sorry, we can't hear you. Can you test your mic, Oliver?
Testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ollie, we can't hear you.
I think
It's probably Aaron.
Yeah.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Is it yours?
It shouldn't be.
Hello.
Before.
It's
It's on there.
Is it on there?
Test.
He's lighting up.
Yeah.
Change the The speaker output, Teams.
Testing.
Not an online of a hybrid event without a technical issue.
One more.
Can you speak?
Testing. One. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hopefully you can hear us. Great.
Yeah.
Morning, my name is Madhav Raman and I'm an engagement officer with the Health Promotion Unit.
And my name is Oliver Jackson, and I'm the Water Safety Officer for the Health Promotions Unit.
Today we're here to discuss an often overlooked aspect of international student life, the challenge that goes beyond textbooks and lecture halls. It's about breaking down cultural barriers, both seen and unseen. So what are some common and not so common cultural barriers? Learning a new language takes time, and even with language proficiency, cultural nuances in communication can be challenging to navigate. Different cultures have distinct social norms and customs and etiquettes. International students might find it challenging to adapt to the unwritten rules of social interaction in a new cultural context. Preconceived notions and cultural stereotypes about different cultures can create biases and misunderstandings. Bridging the gap between educational systems involves understanding diverse approaches and adapting to new teaching styles. And finally, shared experiences often form the basis of connections. Creating opportunities for shared activities and experiences can be challenging, especially when cultural differences impact interests and preferences.
Breaking down cultural barriers requires intentional efforts, cultural competence, and a commitment to fostering an inclusive environment. As we enter the Australian summer, a significant but hidden cultural divide emerges. While many embrace our strong beach and pool culture, some international students find themselves on the sidelines, hindered by lack of confidence and swimming skills. In response to this challenge, we created a targeted water safety program. To illustrate how we can educate, transform, and break down hidden barriers, I want to tell you a pretty incredible story. So Nimish Yuki is a current UNSW PhD student, and having grown up in a non-coastal region of India, the hidden cultural barriers Nimish faced included not just a lack of swimming skills, but also profound anxiety about the water. Nimish decided to join our Learn to Swim program, designed to teach foundational skills about being safe in the water. By joining a supportive community of learners, Nimish discovered a shared experience among the participants, all grappling with similar fears and swimming challenges. This sense of community fostered a feeling of belonging, reducing the isolation often felt by those with cultural barriers related to water activities. Nimish also eventually joined the Beach Ocean Safe program. The program's emphasis on practical knowledge combined with theoretical learning in a safe and inclusive environment enabled him to flourish. The Learn to Swim and BOSS programs acted as catalysts for cultural integration, providing Nimish and others with the tools to navigate and appreciate the unique aspects of Australian coastal living. Our initiatives not only dismantled Nimish's hidden cultural barriers, but also empowered him to share his newfound knowledge and experiences by becoming a swimming instructor. He now helps to contribute to the ongoing process of breaking down cultural barriers for others.
We have had over 1,000 students pass through our water safety program, and every student has their own story, just like Nimish. The success of the water safety programs at UNSW offer valuable insights into breaking down cultural barriers that can be applied to the university education context. So how can we do this? In all our water safety programs, community plays a crucial role in overcoming fears and barriers. Communities and support networks can help international students feel more connected. Just as the Learn to Swim program adapted its delivery to accommodate diverse needs, we need to strive to create inclusive learning environments. This involves in addressing diverse learning styles, offering language support, and ensuring that coursework considers the varied academic backgrounds of international students. We utilize existing students as mentors in all our programs to guide participants past their fears. Faculty or peer mentors can provide insights into navigating university systems, academic expectations, and cultural nuances, contributing to a smoother transition. And finally, we utilize simple but effective monitoring and evaluation techniques to refine and enhance the program. Feedback mechanisms, surveys, and focus groups can provide valuable insights into areas that may need improvement and help tailor support services accordingly.
By applying these principles, we can create educational environments that not only break down cultural barriers, but also enhances the overall experience for international students. The goal here is to create a university culture that celebrates diversity, facilitates meaningful connections, and ensures the academic success and well-being of all students, regardless of their cultural backgrounds. Thank you.
Any questions? Great, happy to chat later.
Is there a question online?
No, I have a
you
quick
have a
question.
Oh, sorry, Mel.
I'm a very questioning person. Is this whole program only available to international students, or is it domestic students that may, for whatever reason, not have learned to swim as well?
I'm happy to answer this. So it's open to all students, both domestic and international. It just so happens that probably our target audience and the people who want to join the program are international. But we have had more than a few domestic students pass through the program, and some of their stories are pretty incredible because they have to go through a lot of fears and overcome a lot of obstacles to take that step and join a program like this one. So it is open to all, domestic and international, and we welcome everyone regardless of cultural backgrounds.
Great. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Terry. Thank you very much, Terry. Here's this. Would you prefer to hold the microphone or would you like to? Whatever works for you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to power straight through. Give you a bit of context of the data that I'm going to present to you today. It's from a third-year zoology course in the Faculty of Science. It's been collected across multiple years. The course itself is moderately sized. It's about 40 to 70 students. And the course content is delivered entirely asynchronous and online. And I'm going to talk today about one of the key components of that is the video lectures and how can you create effective video lectures. About a third of the course will self-identify as coming from a non-English speaking background. Most of those are coming from a Chinese background. Given that, I managed to get some funding through the Science Student Experience team to create English captions, accurate English captions, and foreign language subtitles and offer those to students and they could select whichever one worked for them. At the end of the course, I surveyed them and asked which ones did you actually use. Turns out that over half the class actually uses the English captioned option, so regardless of their language background. And the general reasons boil down to improved comprehension. So they're hearing it in the video and they're reading the captions at the same time and it reinforces that information for them. The other really wonderful advantage of the transcripts that are associated with these is that you can go through them and identify technical jargon and create glossaries associated with each lecture. I have to be honest, I was quite sceptical about whether this would actually be used by students. Turns out that 3/4 of the class rely on those glossaries quite heavily, and it boils down to getting additional information on some of those difficult concepts that are being presented at the video lectures. Look, if you're going to be sitting in your office recording a 50-minute lecture and then uploading it to something like Echo 360, I can tell you now, about 2/3 of your class, if you're lucky, you're going to be watching those lectures all the way through to the end. By the end of the course, that's going to drop down to less than half. If you spend a bit of time trying to create these interactive video lectures, you can actually increase that engagement to 100%. What on earth is an interactive video lecture? All it boils down to is breaking up your video content into smaller pieces, using something like H5P and creating an interactive interface. For example, lecture sandwich, where students will watch 5 or 6 minutes of video, then they'll do an activity that reinforces that concept. They'll watch a little bit more video and perhaps do a quiz, so on and so forth. Two more sort of sophisticated ones are these self-directed, choose your own adventure style lectures where students are actually actively determining what the sequence of those videos are that they're actually watching. So the students definitely like the lecture sandwich, the activities and quizzes sandwiched between the videos, but they also really appreciate the self-directed choose your own adventure lectures as well. Why? I mean, obviously it's explicitly designed to be interactive. As a consequence, they find it more engaging, and that accounts for why you can get 100% engagement through all of your lectures virtually to the entirety of your lecture as well. Okay, so foreign language subtitles, they're really appreciated by students, but they're kind of expensive and they're not really used. What is heavily used, regardless of their background, is English captions. The glossaries that you can create based on those transcripts are also heavily used as well. And as I've just said, if you spend a little bit of time creating those interactive lectures, you can actually increase engagement to 100%. Look, this is a session on student wellbeing. So if there was one thing that you could do in your course, was to be nice. It sounds a bit Mickey Mousey, but every opportunity that you have to engage with students, being personable, being accommodating, being friendly, I think just that one thing in itself, I think you'll be amazed about how much you can improve engagement from your students by simply being a human and treating them as a human as well. I'd love to hear from you. My email address is up on the screen there. Thank you.
Question?
Cool. I'll travel down with the microphone.
I really like the idea of the interactive lectures, and I saw the choose your own adventure one. Is that using the H5P branching scenario?
Yes.
Okay. And so did you then, with the same lecture, create the sandwich up and the branching scenario so people had choices, or you mixed it up between lectures?
The short answer is you can use H5P if you want to use Moodle.
Yeah.
YouTube actually does it a little more effectively and a little bit easier. In terms of, basically, you've got to design these things. Not every single lecture is going to be appropriate for these self-directed choose your own adventures. It can't be a gimmick, otherwise students will see through that straight away. It's one of these things where you can pose a question and the student needs to answer that question, and you provide information about whether it's right or wrong. You can also get them to explore particular topics that might be particularly interesting to them, in rewatching stuff as well. Through the course, we had a whole bunch of series. We had interactive ones, we had the traditional ones, we choose your own adventure, we had lecture sandwich.
With the glossaries, I saw that you said that it's like obviously hard work, but lots of people use it. Like, how are you generating those glossaries at the moment? Are you just going through the transcripts, or like how are you creating those?
It's literally scan sampling the thing and looking for big words. And then words that you, or phrases that you know, or even biological, biogeographical information as well, interest factors, things, and it's mostly coming from up here. Occasionally Wikipedia will contribute as well, but yeah, so it's a lot of work in the sense you can go through it. If you piecemeal it together, it doesn't feel as bad. As I said, I spent a lot of time on this, and I was really skeptical that they would actually use it. And I was quite pleasantly surprised.
Maybe they
Well, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Because I work with accessibility, I love everything you do. Is there anything you've created in terms of like, for example, another academic and then adopt what you're doing? Because just telling them how to do something doesn't really help as much as, like, say, having a template or like a how-to guide, for example. Have you created anything like that yet?
In terms of?
Like glossary, for example. Yeah, I think that would be really beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the other thing about the interactive lectures is that some of the students find them quite complex, and they always need to have themselves how-to guide to just, what am I? Because it's so new to them, they have no idea what, you present it to them and they're quite taken back about how different it is. But yeah, they have to guide is definitely something that we put together. I was just, look, it's only worth doing that if you find that it's actually useful, and it appears to be useful, so that would be good.
Thank you very
much. I'll just say that Terry won exactly teaching practice award yesterday for his work. Well done, Terry. Okay, we're having really amazing discussions, and also if you have questions to post on the Padlet, there's a QR code just up there that takes you to the Padlet. You can ask questions, and I'll ask the presenters to have a look and see if there are questions for your presentation, and you can answer them by commenting. And next we have Parsu and Gravity, who are coming to talk to us about mock exams.
Thank you. Thank you, Jess.
I've got this for you to advance the slides.
Okay, all right. Myself, Patu. I know my name is very big, so you can call me Patu. Otherwise, it is Parthasarathi Kalaiselvan. And today, Revati, Revati was a course convener for this subject, and I was a associate lecturer for her. And we decided, and we thought we'll put this work for the year festival. Then Revati was, she was working hard, and she got an email that she have to utilize her leaves, otherwise it's going to be, So she suddenly booked a ticket, and she forgot that there is a year festival is there. But after booking the ticket, she regretted. But anyway, so she's on holidays, and I'll be presenting this work. And so basically, we want to see that to mock exam effectively reduce the anxiety in students before their final practical exam. So we thought we'll just see this. This is a very pilot study, which is not a very planned study. So we did this because last year in the My Experience survey, the students were given they were very anxiety for the final practical exam because they don't know how the exam is going to be. So that is the main reason we thought we just did this time the mock exam, and we wanted to see how it helped the students in reducing their anxiety. And I'm sorry, my slides are not very great. I just made the slide after Mel sent an email that she said that if I have to put the slides, I have to send before 4 p.m. Otherwise, I have to present without that. The mail which I read at 3 o'clock, so I didn't have much time to prepare.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I don't have anything to disclose for this presentation. And over the past for the last centuries, there has been a significant transformation in the way the medical education evaluates the students' progress. And the stimulated clinical scenarios just emerged in 1960s. However, they are officially established in 1975. So at present, the OSCE is at present the utilization of OSCE method is has been increasing prevalent in assessing the students' clinical proficiency in medical students throughout their education. And OSCE also is a concise method in evaluating the students' performance in the medical education. And this method has been considered as a fair and useful method for assessing the students' clinical competence and also the readiness to progress to their next stage of the training. And many students perceive OSCEs to be the most stressful component of their exam. They are linked to the high level of anxiety, which leads to the adversely affect on their performance. So this is a very small study, and the aim of the study was to understand how effectively the mock OSCE exam would reduce the students' anxiety for the final exams. So basically, this the OSCE the questionnaire was designed by the course convener and the associate lecturers. We are 3 for this particular subject, and we conducted in the 9th week practical class. And so 3 examiners were conducting this mock exam for the students because there are we had almost like 100 students. So we thought this one examiner will be difficult, and so we thought we'll have 3 examiners. And also since 100 students, we didn't have too many times. It's just only 2 hours of practical exam. So we asked the students to select only one task, and which was probably sampling method was used. So they picked one task among the different tasks, and they were given only a limited time to perform that particular task. So we are given here 5 minutes so that they understand how it goes through. And then later, the individual feedback was very crucial, and we are given this feedback after the exam in individual, in face-to-face interaction, and also the written feedbacks. So the outcome for the study was basically collected from the My Experience survey based on what students has written, and so we have put that in the word cloud generator. So it seems to be very promising, and they are helpful and they're better. And so I would like to conclude that the mock exam improved students' confidence and also reduced their anxiety for their final practical exam for the bachelor degree students. So I would like to acknowledge the third year students and also the examiners who conducted the mock exam, and also the pre-clinical manager Dale for giving the accessibility and the resource required. And also I'd like to thank my school. Thanks for listening. Yeah.
Any questions?
So I know that you said using My Experience results
Yeah.
to help get some feedback here.
Yeah.
Did you add an additional question that particularly asked about the mock exam, or did you take that from comments about maybe feedback in general? Or
Yeah.
the standard My
So
Experience question?
we basically taken the feedback from the general, because by the time we decided, the My Experience survey is already on place. So we thought we can't, otherwise the way you suggested, we could have added additional question about the mock exam. So we didn't do that, but fortunately we could see a lot of positive about the mock exam in the general comments. So we thought at least we do that. So the next year we are planning to do much better ways to establish study so that we really understand how it helps the students. So maybe next year we can present those details. Yeah, thank you.
Right, next we have James and Johan. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mel, for organising me, because I clearly need a lot of people. Thank you very much to everybody who's presented in this session. Could you please give them another round of applause? We'll take a break and we'll be back at 12:10. And to those who have presented, please have a look at the Padlet, because your colleagues have asked questions in there and made some comments on the amazing work that you've done. You got someone on Teams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one, well, Terry, you've got a question on Teams in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we can post that.
I can always email it to
you. Just before you go, as a thank you to those of you who have presented, Chris and I will write a little blurb about what you've done and the sort of theme for this event, so that you can use it on your My Education portfolio or in your promotions or in any other way that it is useful to you as a thank you from us. So I'll see you back here at 12:10.
What was that? The final session of today for the Student Wellbeing CoP. As if you've just turned up online, please, there's a Padlet. If you can please post your questions on the Padlet. We're asking all the presenters if they can read the Padlet afterwards. If we don't have the time to get to the question, we do want them answered, and the speakers said they will be happy to answer them. Also, you can put it online into the chat online, and we will then transfer it to the Padlet if that seems to be, thank you, if that seems to be a problem. So our next speaker is James, Heath and Dora. Doha, my apologies.
Dora is a nice name though.
And they're going to speak to us about the Peer Assisted Study Sessions program.
Thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, so my name is James Heath. I'm the program manager for the UNSW Pass program. How's it going?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Doha. I'm a third year student here at UNSW. I'm studying a Bachelor of Engineering and Commerce, majoring in Chemical Engineering. And I'm a pass leader.
Now try again.
Okay. So I'm going to speak really briefly because I want to give most of the time to Doha to talk about her experiences. Can I just get an indication of who's heard of PASS? Oh, this is wonderful. Yay, we're starting to get the word out there. So PASS, as it seems like most of you know, is regularly scheduled out-of-class study sessions. They're non-remedial, so they target challenging courses rather than at-risk students to reduce that stigma of entry. They're facilitated by past leaders such as Doha and the picture of some of our leaders on the screen there. They're really about building a collaborative learning community. So they're about creating active learning opportunities for students within that study space. We run them online and in person. Looking at impact so far, what we can see is that in an academic sense, PASS does increase confidence. So just from our own program over the last couple of terms, we've seen that 92% of students who attend feel more confident about their studies after the session. We do see big impacts on grades, and we've got some data there from the UNSW Business School PASS program, who's been running for many years. Over the last 3 years, almost 20% difference between students who attend PASS and those who don't, which is a massive difference. Obviously, correlation doesn't equal causation, but there is a bunch of really robust literature around the fact that PASS does increase grades and retention, particularly when students attend 5 or more sessions. There's a study there that I've linked to, which is a recent one, which really shows that it does make an impact, particularly for students from minority racial backgrounds as well. It's a US-based study. But what we want to focus on today, because this is wellbeing, is the wellbeing impact. So just a couple of themes that are emerging from the feedback that we're getting from students so far is that PASS creates a learning community. You can see that there's a quote there around bouncing ideas off other students. And what we really are really loving seeing in the feedback is that it is seen as a supportive environment. So a student commented, I like being able to ask questions without being judged, which I think really talks to that safe space that PASS is with that peer-to-peer support. And I'd like to hand over to Doha to talk a little bit more about how PASS leaders create that kind of environment within the sessions.
I'll give you a quick Hi, everyone. I'm Doha, and introduce myself. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what PASS actually looks like for students when they come in. Of course, we do provide academic support, having done the courses ourselves and excelled in them. So a session can look very unique, and it really varies from week to week. We can answer questions for students, we can explain challenging concepts, go through assignment briefs, but what it's really about is student wellbeing. Most of our, or pretty much all of our courses right now are offered to first year students, and as you all know, first year students do face a lot of challenges in that transition from high school or from a different learning institution. So for us, what this really looks like is being less of a tutor and more of a friend, really. It's about setting up tables in group settings like this so everyone can sort of sit down and engage and conversate with each other. It's about allowing the student to lead the conversation about how to answer a question rather than standing in front of the board and really just going through everything. And what it means for us as PASS leaders is that we are there to facilitate the conversations and to provide knowledge where there's gaps for students rather than standing in front of a board and just listing out, here's how you work out the answer, because pretty much all first year courses offer a wealth of support when it comes to academic understanding and when it comes to additional sessions that students can come to. That's where PASS really differs. On to the next thing. One thing that we've looked at in terms of just impact is students really feeling supported throughout the sessions. So for us, we very strategically time our sessions to occur as often as possible prior to or after lectures. As you know, a lot of students don't attend lectures because they fall behind on one and then it's just a domino effect. So what that looks like is a student coming in and us saying, hey, are you planning to attend this lecture? Probably not. Let's sit down and work through what you need to understand in order to go into that lecture feeling supported and feeling like you're up to date with the content. This kind of sort of feedback loop where students can attend the lectures, gain that understanding, and then go into pass or vice versa, really allows the student to just stay up to date with the content when it comes to the sessions. And it also allows them to come into the next session and just ask questions and be a lot more proactive when it comes to really digging down deeper and understanding concepts. Another thing we're starting to see is community building. We do have a Teams group where students can join and they can ask questions on there. They can also attend online sessions, which is really valuable for students who can't make it during sort of work hours. We do run them sometimes up to 6 p.m, which is great for some students. And this means that students can actually just come in and ask questions in a much less sort of judgmental environment. I know some students don't even like to turn on their mic or their camera or anything like that, but they still do want the support. And by encouraging them to send through their screenshots of their questions and talking them through it, a lot of students get to the stage of coming into the sessions even the week after instead of just attending online. And for us, that community building is really important, particularly because this is the sort of foundational year where we offer pass across a wide range of courses for first years. And then next slide. Oh, that's it. Cool. In terms of future impact, we really want to expand pass across postgraduate courses even. But for us, it's really just about building a community, building up students so that they can feel supported, and also being a pivot for students when it comes to wanting more mental health support or more support when it comes to something that we can't really answer because we're students. So academic support as well. So acting as students who basically pivot other students towards more extensive resources is also something that we do. Thank you.
We've got maybe time for one quick question if anyone's got a quick question.
When did this start?
When did it start?
So it's been running in the business school for many years, so over 20 years. The pass itself as a concept has been around for 50 years. What we've done in the last year is centrally expanded very much in ADA, engineering and science, but there are existing programs in medicine and health and also in law and justice that are similar and related as well.
Just quick question, when were you thinking about the postgrad?
I never think about
I mentioned that, but maybe it's future. Yeah. Really focusing on first year.
Yeah. Let's thank James and Dar.
Thanks. We'll be downstairs at the expo as well if you want to ask us more questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good job. So here she comes. So our next speaker, as she's walking because we're pushing for time, is Nicole. And she's going to talk about foster student belonging in the classroom post-COVID. Flexible classroom. Over to you.
Okay, hello, I'm Nicole. I work in the PVC SE. In our portfolio, we have a number of research groups. This is the Belonging Research Group, which has Cara and Collins, myself, same shirt, not here, Felipe and Nathan. Felipe and Nathan are very lovely recent students, but also early career academics. Our Belonging project started from a report that we wrote on falling levels of community at UNSW. The report found that belonging exists at all levels of the university, campus, faculty, program, classroom, personnel. And there are also things that staff can do to foster belonging, but there are things that students can do. So everyone in the community has a role to play. We also found that classroom level has the most inconsistencies, so that's where we decided to concentrate. Originally, we wanted to study the thoughts of students and staff, but in the end, we had to just concentrate on staff. So our project is to find really large first-year courses that have a high score, high agree in the learning community question of the My Experience survey. Then we go and interview those staff. Then we take all what the staff said and we try and mould it into a framework to understand the themes. Then we build a PD activity to try and share those themes, and then we evaluate if it worked. So the framework we ended up with, well, it's a learning community, so we discovered that there's community stuff, social stuff, And there's academic learning stuff. So we divided all of the comments and thoughts into those two ways, and then we divided again. So social, there's caring, and there's being responsive, and there's academic, there's engagement, and there's support. And then we divide it again so that there's social caring in class and out of class, and there's being responsive, clear communication and listening to students. And there's academic group and individual engagement, and there's also academic support and scaffolding and self-directed learning. So what we discovered was that sometimes the things that staff told us could sort of fit into multiple of those things, and that the actual boundaries between them are really fluid. We also discovered that when we went to do a PD activity, everything we thought of actually just summarised down, and it lost the individuality of the thoughts, and it was the individuality that was really, really important. So it also felt like we were trying to squash these thoughts into boxes, whereas they just really didn't want to go, they just wanted to be free. So in the end, the PD activity that we developed was just a 52 card pack of cards, but it has the actual verbatim text that we got from the staff. And each of those cards becomes a technique card, and the idea is that the players of the game have to try and win those techniques. For the findings, what did we discover? You can't see that, it's really small, but what we discovered was that often the techniques are really contradictory. So that those first two cards, the first card, the blackjack, is something about, I always argue that they need to keep their cameras on. And the next one down, the black 10 is cameras off doesn't mean that they're not engaged. So cameras on, cameras off, who's right? Well, it was only when we stopped thinking about what they were doing and started thinking about how and why they're doing it that we began to see some sort of logic. So cameras on, what's that saying to the student? It's saying your engagement matters. I care that I don't lose you during the course. Cameras off, what's that saying to the student? It's saying, I care about your comfort. You know, I care that you're happy when you come to class. So they're both really logical things to do to create belonging. So which way do we go? Well, we discovered that context is important. So one of these lectures is quite a lot larger than the other. And it also means, it also depends on authenticity. It's about, a lot of these cards say, do this, do that, be this, be that, but it's actually really what's what's comfortable for the lecturer to do. So the cards give us a way of talking about pedagogy, about things that you can do in your class, but it recognises that there's not one gold sort of standard way to go. So where we're up to is that we've built a physical and we're building a digital way to play this game. It can be online, face-to-face, any number of players, and we're going to trial it next year. Any questions?
It's just a simple one. Where can I play the game?
Where can I play the game? It's going to be in sort of staff trainings like Fultz, and but we'll be getting it out there, and I'll send you a pack of cards if you want.
You've got that.
Yes. Any others?
No, thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is, here he comes, Professor Simon McIntyre, and he's going to talk to us about identifying student risk.
Thank you, everyone. I have to update that picture at some point. Okay, a bit fast. So I just wanted to talk to everyone today about a strategically funded project that we're doing, which is about early identification of academic risk of failure, or risk of academic failure, I should say. These points are probably well known by everybody, but I mean, if we see changes of engagement with students suddenly in their classes, if we see them starting to fail, that can be a really early indicator that something bigger is wrong. Now, we've got a lot of fantastic services doing a lot of fantastic things, but unless we've got very astute people, particularly in large courses, often what happens is those cycles of support tend to happen at the end of a term. By then, problems can be bigger, can be harder to help and harder to reach students. So what we're looking at is trying to change that by getting in earlier. So this project is strategically funded by the university, like I mentioned, for 3 years. Basically, the idea is just what I said. We're trying to catch students early who show signs of risk. But how we're doing that is by looking at a lot of different data and using predictive machine learning to identify patterns. So, for example, we're starting this project with Moodle data because that's what most students use across the university and use it a lot. We've analysed thousands and thousands of courses and determined different patterns of engagement. We're also layering different data on there, demographic data, etc., but none of the demographics are in the prediction. That comes later when we talk about support. We're also starting to use AI to actually do analysis of the data for people, so you don't have to be a data scientist to actually get benefit from this. And we're also starting to experiment with using it to draft communications. But by doing that, we're using all the expertise of our support services to help us provide the syntax, the structure for that. Sort of gave the whole presentation on one slide, but that's all right. Importantly, though, there's a lot more pressure on universities to make sure that we're taking care of our students. And many of you will have heard of the Universities Accord, for example, where there's a real focus on early detection and ensuring we can provide support. But there's many other initiatives which probably you've all heard about today, being done across the institution, Gateway Equity Target, mental health strategy. All of them talk about being able to find students who need help, being able to offer them the right support at the right time. And that's where we try and fit in. So just quickly, this is just a bit of a statistical snapshot, but I'm not going to talk about all of them except the one on the right, the big one. So that's from the SES survey last year, when only 51% of students said they were offered the right support. Now, that's not because we don't have it, it's because there's a lot of it. So basically, this map was provided by the Gateway Equity Target Project, which is a big initiative looking at bringing a lot more students in, giving a lot more opportunity and providing support. But just at that count, at central and faculty level, there are 65 plus programs that are actually running. And that is not all of them, I guarantee it. So imagine you're a student walking in for the first time. If you're under duress, you're under stress, where do I go there? And someone mentioned stigma before. And that is really something that's very important. We can't underestimate it. So what we're doing, we've got the machine learning at the top, sort of looking at patterns of engagement. What we want to do is early in the term, if we think the risk is low, we just want to reach out privately to the student, just a private nudge. And because we know a little bit about how you've been engaging, what your demographics might be, I mean, international students, etc., we can actually offer you a personal, private suggestion that might be relevant for you at that time. That can be as early as week 1, week 2, etc. If things get a little bit more serious, we want to go to the academic, and we've obviously got support services who really specialise in supporting students at high risk or sensitive situations. We can go to them first if we see that something might be serious enough for a professional to reach out. The big point, though, is we want to provide the right recommendations for you as a student based on who you are at the right time, early enough to turn things around. Neil gave a presentation at Academic Board the other day saying that mental health support, the demand for it, has actually doubled since 2019. What if we could actually catch people before that, take the pressure off our services as well? So the prototypes we're going to be testing in T1 next year, I can do that, 1 minute. We're designing a student-facing dashboard that's basically got a comparison of how you're tracking with your engagement compared to your peers in the class. It's got an area where we'll be sending you the information about what might be right for you to follow. We're also showing something to staff, which is at a much higher level. So the sort of coloured one there, which is sitting on the right hand when the teacher logs in, it immediately tells you at a glance who we think might need urgent support. And you can quickly go and have a look who those people are. And it also gives you an idea about who's new in the class, who's logged in, who hasn't, etc. And they can actually drill down and look at some of the reasons why we think that is. No private demographic information, though, is going to be shown to academics here. What we're, come on, Speedy. So we are gonna just about to start a whole series of workshops with our support services where we want to understand their heuristic knowledge. What's the language you use when you reach out to someone at risk? What are the different levels of risk and how do you manage that? What's the right thing to say? What's the wrong thing to say? And actually build a syntax we can feed into the AI to then draw on the data from our predictive model, mix them together, present it to an academic, and they can actually tweak it, tune it, and batch send it if they want. So it actually takes a lot of that load off and hopefully uses the right language if an academic might not know how to say it. We'll also be looking at notifications for students if we want to reach out to them. So Teams, email, but ultimately text, because if you're in trouble, you're not going to log in. Just really quickly to finish, we've done a bit of a test with a faculty who does a manual process for detection of risk. In T1, 1,100 students in that faculty failed, which was below the university average. The manual process only picked up 57 of those. The machine learning picked up 727, and 631 of that 1,100 we identified correctly every week in the first 4 weeks. Plenty of time to actually step in and lend a helping hand. And just quickly, that's just a breakdown of the demographics there. So you can see that we could have directed people to specific support to get in early. So piloting in T1, contact me if you're interested in taking part in that, and I'm sure I went over time.
No.
Thank you.
You want to take any questions? We'll give you some questions.
Yes.
Oh, was that
Okay. Just how did you promote that to the students in the faculty? Were they aware that this was going to happen and that it's like done by AI, that it's
So just a good question. Just to be clear though, that is testing of data passed. So basically the pilots in T1 coming up, the big pilot, we have 66 students involved across our steerco, our working group, our testing groups. They're helping us actually design this. We're working with UNSW Legal to make sure we're not breaching any privacy laws and obligations. And we're also working with like ARC and the SRC to make sure we get the communications out. So we believe in transparency. We'll be letting everyone know that this is actually happening. But interestingly, it falls within the privacy agreement that students are actually accepting already because we're using data to provide support. What the trick is about who we show to what. And that's what we're continually working with the students and with legal on to make sure we only show as minimal amount as possible to who needs it. But happy to pick that up again offline.
You may have mentioned this already, but is it only focused on academic metrics to see whether they're tracking well, or how do you incorporate well-being metrics or things outside of the classroom that have a big influence on the academics?
Yeah, the question was, is it about just academic metrics or is there other student metrics being captured?
So one of the biggest challenges we've got with this is that there are pools of data all over the university that aren't wired together. So we're progressively looking at this. But first on the list, we're working with the registrar's office, who are very keen on this as well, to look at things like, has the student submitted a special consideration application? Is there an EDI adjustment in place? We don't need to know what it is, but it would be good to actually know those sorts of things. But basically, if we can get the data, we can test to see if it's relevant or not, and then sort of look at how to work that in. But a lot of the data is behind the scenes and people don't ever see any of it, which is the way it should be. But yes, we want to see how far we can go. I don't know how much
we'll
time
have to
we've got.
do it on offline if you don't mind.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. So our next speaker, it's all right, Kelsey. She's had a busy week, so we're really thankful she's here. So our next speaker is Kelsey Burton and Elania Laya. I'm not very good with names, my apologies. Laya Yang.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's your clicker.
Yeah. My pronunciation. Okay. Okay. Think about your teenage years. Do you remember how hard it was to persuade your parents to let you do something? Yeah. And what if you're from a small town? You're from a small town with the conservative parents. Do you think you could do that?
Grow up in China, I convinced myself at the age of 16 to drop out of high school and move to Australia alone. And after a few years later, I became a primary school teacher. A career I love. I'm passionate about teaching. But then I realized that all those neurodivergent students in my school are naturally gravitate towards me. And that's why I advocate for resources. I advocate for more support from the school. But do you think they listened? No. And that really got me frustrated. And I decided to leave and go back to school and start trying to change my career. Because I think every students deserve equal education. And that's where I met Dr. Kelsey.
Yeah. So this is Alaya. She was a postgrad student in my MGMT 5710 course. If you'd like to know what I do in that class, I did a presentation Wednesday about it.
Yeah.
In the authentic assessment. So I know a tutor pointed out Alaya to me and said that she was interested in teaching at university level, and then I stopped her. So I read all of her assignments, and we do a lot of reflection journals. So I was reading all of her self-awareness development and watching her throughout the entire course, but she wasn't in my tutor. And then we do a networking event on week 6 where we take the class to the roundhouse and we just chill out and chat. And my tutor goes, Alaya, why don't you be the MC? And Alaya gets up, and my jaw hit the floor. She gets up and she's like, do this and do that. And I was like, I want her. So I asked her to teach for me, and she came in and saved my butt. Saved my butt. She had a neurodivergent student in her class, and I put students in very difficult situations in negotiations, because in my class, you can fail, you can make mistakes, you can learn how to have difficult conversations, lose emotional control, scream and yell, and we'll help you. And so I needed someone that could mirror my teaching style. And so I started looking, and that's when I found her and asked her to teach. Lo and behold, I didn't find this out till a year later. I've been calling her the wrong name. Her name's Alaya, not Alaya, so don't listen to me. And she has literally transformed my course, because what I did was I implemented these inclusive initiatives into my postgrad. I needed to put it into my undergrad a lot bigger. I needed a good tutor. So listen to some of our students that we've gotten some feedback from them, so you can hear it from students themselves. So this is a student in my tutorial this past term, in term 3, and this student is the one from Alaya's first term of teaching and was in her tutorial. So this student was in her tutorial, yep, and she, I made her get a student from her tutorial because it was in that class that Alaya saved my butt. She had a student that lost a little bit of emotional control, and Alaya handled it flawlessly. The reason I wanted Alaya was because I implemented inclusive principles. So these are micro-inclusive behaviors that you embody. And so I implemented this into my postgrad course. And then I was like, let me pilot it with somebody else, right? So I got somebody who's very opposite to me. Okay, she's Korean, she's amazing, but she's very calm. She brings me down. So I always come to her if I need to calm down. So I said, go put these things. So this is Juliet Burke's, what I gave her was what I'm about to tell you. So this is Juliet Burke's research on inclusive leadership, but she also looked at micro-inclusive behaviors. These are things that you embody, teeny tiny small behaviors that you can put into classes. So what I did is I created 3 different simple activities that could go into any course, no matter if you're a good teacher or a bad teacher. Hopefully your students will learn inclusivity because it's peer-to-peer. So I put together 3 activities, simple, any course. I gave it to my friend who is Korean, and it didn't work. So I went back to Juliet Burke and I was like, why didn't this work? And she said, Kelsey, you have to realize that you're natural at this. You naturally are inclusive. And I was like, well, that's why I'm related to your research pretty well. And that's why I got her, is because she's naturally inclusive. So she can implement this into my tutorials the way I want her to, and I don't actually have to sit down and teach her. She can give me that insight that I don't have. So 3721, the ratings have gone up. I am not worried about my students anymore. I finally have a teaching team that is emotionally intelligent, that's able to handle each and every type of neurodivergent student that can come in, because we listen and we hear what they have to say and we adapt to what they need. So this is what we practice. This is what we're working on, and this is where we're headed. Thank you. Also, just the chocolates, right? Simple little things make a massive difference. Bring your students chocolates, and there's research out there. If you eat a piece of chocolate before you take an exam, you'll do better. So bring your students a little treat, and they are like, whoa! It makes a huge difference.
Has anyone got any questions they want to ask?
Was that a half question?
There we go. Anyone online? Yes, we got it.
So thank you so much for that. You clearly shown us how you connected with Alaya because she naturally is predisposed to this, and yet you worked with a colleague who struggled with it. So is it something that is inclusive for all of us who may or may not have that sort of natural meaning?
That's what I'm working on. So that's what we're working on. So that's why I have SJ. So because when she told me these things didn't work, I was like, okay, I got to go back to the drawing board. What is it that I need to put in here? What is it that I do? So now I'm paying more attention to my own inclusive behaviors and how that manifests in my class, because for a long time I couldn't tell you what I did. It wasn't until I read her research I was like, that's what I do. And now I'm trying to figure out how I do it. So it's coming, hopefully. And next year in term 1, I've updated the things for SJ, so when she implements them, if they don't work, we'll go back to the drawing board.
So our next speaker is Poon Leung, and he is going to talk about building a community of feedback, and he's sent in a video for us to watch. Oh, here we go. It's going to be shared.
Close your eyes for a moment. Think about the word community. There's a sense of home, a sense of belonging. It's a safe. Close your eyes for a moment. Think of the word community. There's a sense of home, a sense of belonging. It's a safety net, a support network. Now, open your eyes. What if I told you that I've found a way to embed a sense of community into my course? More importantly, what if I told you I did it in a way that saves me time?
We have found the witch, mighty God.
I may not have practiced witchcraft in the past. I am no witch. Hi, my name is Pun Leung, and I'm an EF in the School of Risk and Actuarial Studies in the Business School at UNSW. I want to share with you some of my work from my data storytelling course that relaunched this year in Term 2. In this course, students choose their own topic to create their own data story. The only two rules I place on them are 1, their topic to relate to at least one of the UN SDGs, and 2, they need to be able to address the topic using data. From there, the weekly activities, including lectures, tutorials, and discussion forum posts, are all designed to provide extra support. For example, in week 1, get students to play taboo with each other. I then use this activity to segue into the idea of communication and the difficulties that entails. Another activity, which I only implemented this term, is the mock interview that's held in week 10 tutorials. In this activity, students are given very typical interview style questions that they can only answer using their experiences from this course. Before I dive into the evidence, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about my methodology and some disclaimers. At the end of the course, students are given an optional anonymous feedback survey that I've created. The data I'm going to share with you today is specifically for the postgraduate cohort, COM 5501. The data spans both Term 2 and Term 3 this year. For the Term 2 cohort, of 113 enrolled students, I have responses from 106. For Term 3, of 205 enrolled students, I had 157 responses at the time I accessed the data. In particular, I want to point out the fact that the cohort has almost doubled in size from Term 2 to Term 3. Correspondingly, we've had to increase our tutor team as well. The first question I give students in this feedback survey is a self-reported lecture attendance. So the options are few to none, about half, most, and every. Again, this survey is anonymous, so I don't see any incentives for students to lie on this survey. As you can see, the vast majority of students are self-reporting, attending most or every lecture. I have a very similar question for tutorial attendance as well. As you would expect, tutorial attendance is noticeably stronger than lecture attendance. Plotting these two together, we see that there is a reasonably clear relationship between tutorial attendance and lecture attendance. What fascinates me personally is this student over here. This student's recommendation for how to improve the course was to make tutorials and lecture attendance mandatory. I'll leave you to think about that one. Diving a little bit deeper into the course experience, students were given this statement. As you can see, the results are very, very strong. There were 2 students that strongly disagreed with the statement, and their comments seemed to suggest that they place much more value on lecturer and tutor feedback. Another statement they were given was, the opportunities to see the work of my peers was helpful for my own learning. Once again, we see the overwhelmingly strong results. Finally, students were given the statement, working with other students regularly throughout this course gave me a sense of community amongst the other students. Once again, we see the overwhelmingly strong results. Okay, but how does this help me? As I said earlier, this is actually a massive time saver. Because there is a strong sense of community amongst the students, I don't need to be the nexus point for all their questions. Because students post their work on a weekly basis on the Moodle discussion forum, students are also creating a lot of resources for each other. This also takes some of the burden away from me from having to create all the resources myself. Related to that, there is also a lot of information sharing. Again, they don't feel the need to come straight to me. I am a little bit selfish that way, aren't I? If you'd like to know more, here's what you can do. First, you can search the hashtag UNSW DataVisCom on LinkedIn. If you'd like to know more about this process, I'm definitely happy to answer any questions you may have, so please do feel free to reach out.
Okay, so just bear with us while we get everything back on track.
We're dealing with a lot of technology today. Poon wasn't able to join us, so we invited him to record a presentation. So if you've got any questions, post them onto the Padlet, and we'll make sure that Poon has a chance to answer those for you.
Yeah.
So our next speaker is Professor Neil Morris, who's the director of the Wellbeing pillar. So when Chris has the slides up, you can go through the program. And they do have a clicker somewhere. Yes.
That was very polite when they said they're going to put the slides up. These were the slides that were the last ones received by the CoP for this presentation. I might have been.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I might have been a little late.
Is that right?
5 minutes, let's go. Hey, I'm just going to introduce anyway by saying thanks to the CoP for doing this. It's going to make my life a little bit easier over the next couple of years, the Wellbeing CoP. Because much of what we're doing around student mental health under the strategy that we launched in November 2021, much of what we've done so far is the front end of dealing with what is quite frankly another epidemic, and that is students who are coming forward because they think they need mental health support. Oh, I'm a professor now too, that's even better. Geez, I could have applied for that BBC student success job if I'd have been a professor. So the numbers that, as Simon alluded to before, of students coming forward looking for support around the whole spectrum of mental health issues has literally doubled from 2019, which is the first full year that we can report pre-COVID. But what we put in place was a restructured psychology and wellness team and stood up a triage point. So we're coping. And whilst the numbers are heavy, and an associate dean education the other day said, rang me at about 6 o'clock and said, I can't get over the numbers that you presented at academic board. They're overwhelming. And I said, yeah, but they're okay because they are the students that we know are being case managed and are seeing an expert professional within their institution. It's the unknown that's the problem. And what we couldn't see was another 100% increase in 3 years' time. So that's why the strategy places a lot of emphasis on the prepare and prevent bit that I will get to in my couple of seconds left. This slide deck that I put through is about people looking at it in their own time. There's 19 slides. That would mean 15.79 seconds per slide. So I'm not going to go through it all. But as I said, the CoP have done a terrific job and are going to play a great.
Now go.
Are going to play a really important role in this strategy as we roll it out over the next couple of years. Let me go to what we're trying to put in place and deal with. And this is based on the Australian Productivity Commission report around the need for large institutions, and particularly they have a section on higher education, to have a step care model approach. So what do you do for your well population before they start to drift into being less than well? What do you do for the at-risk groups that Simon talked about, which is that academic wobbliness that can lead to some stress and anxiety and mental health issues? What do you do for those people that have more pronounced mental health issues? And steps up through the severe and those students who they might arrive on campus with a psychiatric disorder, or they might arrive on a cocktail of medications because of the mental health condition they have. And so as you go through this slide deck, you'll see what we've put in place under each of those headings in the step care model, which is quite comprehensive. Let me go to the strategy and what it's about. The whole idea, and sometimes I call that psychology and wellness team a support and retention team, because what they do, there's 17 people in the psychology and wellness team. We've got mental health social workers, we've got psychologists, we've got clinical psychologists, so we can meet the step care needs of students. But essentially what they do is take a student who is wobbly for whatever reason, talk to them about what they're going to do in their academic environment over the next term, 2 terms, 3 terms, and get them back on the path to award degree. That's the reason that they exist, is to get that student through to the award of degree. As I said, we've done a lot in the response piece of the strategy because we've had to deal with the overwhelming numbers. The prepare and prevent bit is where we are going to need a lot of help from academic staff so that we can raise the level of knowledge and capability and competency of academic staff to respond and recognise and know where to go. But also this great aspiration we have in the strategy that every engineer that walks out of UNSW will have a graduate attribute of understanding a lot about their own mental health issues and what triggers them, but also walk into a workplace and know when they can actually have a conversation with a colleague. I'm going to fly through. This is a great document that Cam Farris and his team have pulled together to show where we've come from and where we're going with the strategy. Stats. So as I said, we've seen a doubling of student presentations to our psychology and wellness team from 2019. So kids coming through the triage will nearly get to 3,000 this year. Of those 3,000, 1/3, do the maths, 1,000 of them will present with suicidal ideation or evidence of self-harm. 1,000. They're big numbers because we have 67,000 enrolled students. We're a big institution. So we had to deal with that back-end respond issue. Feedback from stakeholders is covered. This takes you through a whole range of things we're doing at the cultural level and what we want to implement in the faculty. So the next stages of implementation. I've spoken to each faculty dean about having a champion of student mental health for each faculty. The student mental health will sit on faculty academic board meetings as a standing item next year. And that's where we're going to bring our CoP in and look for the already true believers and contributors to student mental health to be part of that conversation in the faculty. So when you're preparing courses and programs and doing new things and you're looking at the impact on students and their mental health. So a bit to do. We're going to rely on faculties a lot. Note on COVID at the end. There's the people who are involved. I'm kind of like the 33-year university veteran bureaucrat who does 5-minute presentations. The experts are in there underneath it. The fantastic team that we've created that are dealing with all of this, and we'll have a lot more contact with the CoP in the future. I think that's it.
Thank you, Neil. And I think the question is, can we share all of those slides?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they're prepared for mass. Yeah.
Should I have a list of students that I think are at risk? Can I send them to you just to like check?
No, never send them to me.
You all are the experts, right? So
Yeah. So the first thing is define what you mean by at risk. Because if they're going to go from a pass to a failure, I don't care.
No, it's more the students that come to me wanting to drop out.
Yeah. There is a beautiful Moodle, new Moodle course that's sitting up there called Supporting Students in Distress. Sarah Madison is agitating with me at the moment. How do we make sure that every academic staff member, including our casuals, do this? Because it takes you on the whole path and continuum and journey of where to go.
What's the name I can write down for that?
Supporting students in distress.
Yeah, the course, like.
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah. But as always, I say, when in doubt, emergency,
Yeah.
security, next port of call, mental health
Yeah,
connect.
I have template
Yeah.
emails for all that
Yeah.
stuff, but it's just more of like, I like to send a message every 2 or 3 months, just like, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
But I BCC all of them, so then that way I'm not sending
Yeah.
them a ton of stuff, so I was just wondering if there's anything that centrally that I could just kind of say, hey, pay attention to this student.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think go through Mental Health Connect as your triage point, because then they push them to the right level. So 70% of students that come through Mental Health Connect will go then and have appointments with a psychology and wellness team, but 30% get pushed to other places like the Equitable Learning Service or Charlotte Long's team doing, the reason they come to Mental Health Connect might be because their English language is really struggling in the classroom. They need, so the triage point's the way to go. Funnel in and then right point out.
I like that we have triage, right?
Yeah.
If they want to know
I told them
more
you weren't allowed to ask any questions.
If anyone wants to know more about SSID, supporting students in distress, come and chat with the health promotions team downstairs. We'll be at the expo. We can share all the details.
The CoP will also put up links to it as well, and we will distribute it as well. And we encourage, of course, all the members of our CoP to do the same thing, to distribute this message, because a little plug about our stakeholder map. So we want to find out all the stakeholders out there. What we mean by stakeholders is all you lovely, passionate people who may not know that we exist, that we're part of the PVC. We come under the PVC ESC. And what we want to do is capture all of you people who are really passionate in the first instance, a first run, so that we can get you to connect with your colleagues on our behalf to distribute all these messages like the student in distress, which has been rolled out. And of course, we as a CoP have had already being able to contribute to that implementation and give voice to that. So we can be a conduit as well as a partner, and that's what we're trying to do, is capture out all of the stakeholders that are out there. And what we mean by stakeholders, it might be your role, but also you might be passionate about it. And every single one of these meetings I come to, I come across at least another 5, 10 new passionate people who've never heard of us. And I go, really? But we're the UNSW Community Practice for Wellbeing, and you're clearly a wellbeing person and you've never heard of us. And that's okay, because we're 60,000 students and very, very busy. And that's why we're really thankful to be a part of this session. So thank everyone online. Just want to come up and help with finalising comments.
Thank you all very much for attending our session today. We're really, really happy that you've joined us and that you've shared your practice. And we encourage you to join the community of practice if that is something that speaks to you and you'd like to be part of our community. Reach out to us, send us an email. I've got a registration QR code that I'll put up at the end. And a very, very big thank you to the Edu Fest organising team, so Dorota and Laura and Remy, who helped us a lot, hugely. And a very special thank you to Mel Cross, who is our project officer in the CoP. Thank you for me too, because I'm very bad at time management, and so you are now my time management person. I'm going to outsource that to you forever. And thank you very much to all of you for being here. And if you take anything away from this, is that we care about what you do. Wellbeing is important to us, and your wellbeing is important to us. And if we can provide a community that supports you, then please join our community of practice. We would love to share your practice more widely through our monthly meetings and connect with you on anything, connect you to other people, and connect you with services. So if you ever have questions, even if you don't want to be part of our community of practice, that's okay. But if you have questions and you need contacts, we're putting our hands up as a community that can support you when you need something. So thank you very much, and join us downstairs for lunch, and extra advice to everyone online.